least 2 doses of the vaccine. But even as most restrictions continue to be lifted, a high spike in Ottawa's COVID-19 wastewater levels indicate that the city could have held on to some of those measures. But the paramedic services and long-term care homes are a few of the high-risk settings that will still require proof of vaccination for now. Pirishka Gopal-Kista, City News.
Now, employees in the provincial government also set to return to work today with no requirement of proof of vaccination either. Over 60,000 workers affected, with the exception of them now being in the office 3 times a week. About half the province's public servants have been working remotely through this pandemic. City News time 9:01, and now your forecast with meteorologist Joel Taylor.
Varying amounts of sun and cloud, the high near 10 degrees, the average high is about 8. Tonight, mainly cloudy, -1. Tomorrow, sun and cloud, and up to 11. For today, the high 10.
And right now in Ottawa, 0. It's 1 degree in Smiths Falls. The search is on for a missing 74-year-old man in the Barrhaven area. The police are hoping you can help find Thomas Meyerhoff. Now, his vehicle was found around River Road and the Vimy Bridge area. Thomas is white, 5'8", with a slim build. He has short salt and pepper hair and is clean-shaven. Now, the police description also says he has crossed eyes and a fair complexion. Anyone who thinks they spot him is asked to contact Ottawa Police. The PC government plans to temporarily reduce the tax it takes on gasoline and diesel if it wins re-election in June.
Premier Doug Ford's government says it'll introduce legislation that will lower the gas tax as of July 1st by 5.7 cents a litre, and the fuel tax, which includes diesel, by 5.3 cents a litre for 6 months. The announcement comes as prices at the pump are surging across the country. During the 2018 provincial election, Ford promised to cut gas prices by 10 cents a litre by reducing the provincial gas tax and scrapping Ontario's cap-and-trade system. But that move prompted the federal carbon tax backstop to kick in, cancelling out the savings. Don Kelly, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
City News time 9:03. The Kremlin is strongly rejecting accusations that Russian troops committed atrocities against civilians in Ukraine. We get more from Andrew Dimebert.
From an undisclosed airbase, this Ukrainian fighter pilot spoke to ABC.
It's a war of all people of Ukraine. That's why we just must win this war.
As Russian troops retreat from the north, the horror of Russian President Vladimir Putin's war is revealed. In the town of Bucha, people say Russian troops shot civilians as they walked in the street. The city's mayor says hundreds have been buried in a mass grave. The satellite image shows a 45-foot-long trench near a church.
Ukrainian President Zelensky is also calling for a United Nations Security Council meeting to condemn Russian actions that he calls genocide. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Yep, and a little bit of everything this morning on the Rob Snow Show on City News. And we are always happy when you decide to spend part of your day with us. Great program ahead. Councillor Mathieu Fleury just ahead. Represents the downtown ward of Rideau-Vanier. There were lots of rumors circulating that he was planning to run for mayor, and now there are rumors circulating that he's not planning to run for mayor. We'll try to pin him down on exactly what he is planning to do this year with the election, the municipal election later this year. As well, there are lots of relevant city matters to get into with him. For example, story front page of the Citizen this morning. About this city-owned parkade in the Byward Market that the city would like to develop. It's on Clarence Street, and the city wants something bold and beautiful. And I hear that, and I think bold and beautiful, that means something will be there in 50 years. The city would like something there in 5 years. 5 years to mark the Byward Market's 200th anniversary. So we'll ask the councillor about that. That's in his ward. As well, Rideau-Vanier ward was in the thick of it, of course, during the trucker protests. And there was a news report this week, all over the weekend actually, emails, text messages that were being exchanged between the police and the truckers. before the police arrived about where the truckers would go. The police service comes across as rather accommodating, chatter about how the police had managed to secure the parking lot next to the baseball stadium and how you can use that as a shuttle. And then after a couple of weeks of occupation in the downtown core, the person on the police end of things comes across in the emails and the text as, frustrated about how the whole thing is unfolding. So we'll get into that. And almost as controversial, the ongoing plans for the so-called mega shelter. Long in the works by the Salvation Army for Montreal Road. To be kind, the city councillor has always been less than impressed with the plans from the Sali end. So much to discuss with Councillor Fleury coming up at about 9:15. Another big story this week is going to be the federal budget. And we will spend some time this week in the run-up to Thursday's federal budget speaking with interested parties, stakeholders, if you will, about what they would like to see in that budget, reported to be a big spending budget. Aren't they all big spending budgets? But I mean, already we know the government plans to buy the F-35, 88 F-35 fighter jets from Lockheed Martin. That comes with a $19 billion price tag. And it's under pressure to meet the NATO benchmark for defense spending, which is 2% of GDP. That'd be about $40 billion a year. The money for the fighter jets, I believe there may be a funding envelope for that already. That may be budgeted already. I'm just not too sure. But then there's, the peace deal. The coalition that's not a coalition and don't call it a coalition. The supply and confidence agreement between the Liberals and the New Democrats, which is supposed to secure NDP support not just for this budget coming up on Thursday, but the next 3 after that. So you have to think the NDP wants to see movement, right, on the things that are close to the NDP's heart. Pharmacare, dental care, 2 big priorities for the New Democrats. There's a news report this morning that Steve Guilbeault, Mr. Guilbeault, formerly of Greenpeace, now your Minister of the Environment, talking about the possibilities for more green programs, all designed to fight climate change, get Canada to net zero by the year 2050. There's another report that says there will be an improved high-speed internet program for low-income seniors. And this is how it's going to go all week, because it's budget week. That means selected leaks to selected media outlets. And by the time Thursday morning rolls around and Thursday afternoon comes at 4 o'clock, then the Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, actually stands to deliver the budget in the House of Commons. There's not going to be much mystery left. Used to be mystery, not much mystery now. We know that there are segments of our business community that are still hurting because of prolonged lockdowns, because of the effects of the pandemic, because of things like supply chain shortages, because of higher energy costs, inflation, labor costs. So we'll get into budget expectations, budget wish lists this morning with Dan Kelly. He is the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and our guest at 9:30. Barry McLaughlin is with us every Monday morning, our expert in corporate media, political communications, crisis communications, leadership, president of Transformational Leadership Consultants, otherwise known as TLC. Going to talk about Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre. People are taking notice and don't know quite what to make of it. They've never seen a young firebrand, some might say fire-breathing conservative, attract such crowds before. We talked about this on Friday, the day after Poilievre had an event here in Ottawa at the Infinity Centre. I took some calls from people who were there, and they spoke about a parking lot that was full. Spoke about people being turned away at capacity, a lineup in the hundreds, people waiting to get a selfie with Pierre Poilievre. And it's like that no matter where he goes, no matter what part of the country he's in. He's packing them in. But what does it mean? What does it really mean? Does it mean he has this Conservative leadership race all sewn up. Don't even bother counting the votes. He's going to take the thing on the first ballot. He's unbeatable. And remember, it's one thing to win the Conservative leadership. Only Conservatives are voting. It's quite another to win a general election. Is Pierre Poilievre really the candidate that can bring the Conservatives back to the promised land? That's another question entirely. There is a line of thinking right now. Yeah, sure, Poilievre can win the leadership when only Conservatives are voting. But if you really want to win a general election, your better bet as a Conservative might be to pick Jean Charest. The situation in Ukraine is hard to hear about it, but sometimes the news is hard to hear, and we still cover it. And we will this morning cover the latest allegations about war crimes, alleged massacre of civilians on the outskirts of Kyiv with the help of Geoffrey Johnston, international affairs columnist, Kingston Whig-Standard, one of our regular contributors here on the Rob Snow Show. And we'll even talk about baseball this morning. The Blue Jays open the regular season on Friday at home at the Rogers Centre. We'll have the game for you on the radio. The Jays playing the Rangers. High hopes for the Jays this season. Arash Madani covers the Blue Jays for Sportsnet. He'll join us. We'll do the Talkback Hour coming up between 10 and 11 o'clock this morning at 750-1310. It's about the budget. What's on your budget wish list? If you were in charge of the federal budget, what would you put in there? Money for national defense, healthcare, seniors, tech, transit, infrastructure? How about tax relief? Give me a break. That's the Talkback Hour between 10 and 11 o'clock at 750-1310. Budget Week on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the Women's Business Network is a volunteer-run association that achieves its strategy and vision by supporting women to achieve their success on their own terms by providing development opportunities, valuable connections within the organization itself, and it facilitates member access to growth within their business and careers.
I mentioned the absence, the 2-year absence of the Businesswoman of the Year awards. Obviously difficult, Mira, but certainly an opportunity to work on some new things. Tell us what you've got planned, what you worked on.
Yeah, we really missed putting on the BYAs for the last 2 years because of COVID. It also was unfortunate that we couldn't celebrate the women that were having such a huge impact on our community in Ottawa. So we're really glad that they're back now. As you know, that they've been around since 1983. Mm-hmm. They are a purpose to celebrate the achievements, the professional expertise, and the leadership of all of the outstanding women we have in the National Capital Region. And for the first time this year in 2022, we've introduced 2 new categories, one being the Lifetime Achievement Award and the other one being the Community Champion Award.
Okay, yeah, and let's break it down even further because, as I mentioned, there's different categories and then, of course, different awards within categories. Tell us about some of the returning categories and some of the other awards as well.
So the 2 returning categories that we're bringing back are actually the entrepreneur and the enterprise leaders. Those are very popular in our community. They draw a significant amount of nominations, and they do get a lot of attention because it's very common that we take the opportunity that we want to celebrate the entrepreneurs in our community, especially after the 2 years of being through what they've been through, right? So we're looking for nominees of owners who have significant impact on their businesses, that have seen strong growth in the last little while. And one of the things that we did do to revamp this award was we dissected it into 3 subcategories based on the term that the individuals have been in business for. So you've got from startups that have been around for 1 to 3 years, then we've got the emerging entrepreneurs 3 to 7, and the established entrepreneurs for 7 years and above. So there's really going to be 3 awards or 3 winners within the entrepreneur category itself. And then we've got the Enterprise Leader Award that's also come back. And this is an opportunity for organizations to nominate individuals within their business that display exceptional leadership attributes, positively impact the environment.
Fun
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
There is much to discuss with our next guest. That is City Councillor for Rideau-Vanier Ward, Mathieu Fleury. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, I hope you're well, Councillor, these days and enjoying some nice weather.
We are. Yeah. As a councillor, when spring arrives, it means what can we do for potholes? What can we do for street sweeping? How do we plan our seasonal traffic calming? And then there's tons and tons of great community work with the capital spring cleanup. So lots going on.
Yep. Never slows down if you're a city councillor. So let's get right to the hot questions, Councillor Fleury. There were lots of rumors that you were planning to run for Mayor of Ottawa in this fall's municipal election. And now there are rumors that you're not planning to run for Mayor of Ottawa in this fall's municipal election. So just what are your plans for this year's municipal election?
Rob, it's still very early for me. I'm still contemplating, and when I'm ready to make an announcement, I'll make one.
So you haven't made up your mind one way or the other?
Again, when I'm ready to make an announcement, I'll share it. Obviously, it's an important decision, important reflection that's ongoing. I'm continuing to speak with leaders, and again, when I'm ready, I'll make an announcement.
All right. I really wish you were ready.
I understand.
But I just can't pull it out of you. I can't pull it out of you today. Okay, I can't pull it out of you today. Okay. Fair enough, Councillor. Fair enough. Let's move on then. If I can't get it out of you today, I'll try some other day. Yeah, but there are many other things, many hot issues that are happening in your ward. Your ward, certainly as a downtown ward, was one of the wards affected by the truckers' protest. Yeah. And the CBC had some interesting reporting over the weekend, text and email exchanges that were going back and forth between a member of the Ottawa Police Service, who was sort of the point person in contact with an organizer for the truckers' protest. This is where we think you can park. We've secured the ball field. It can be used as a shuttle. And then seemingly about 2 weeks later, communication may have broken down, and there appears to be some kind of rift there because of the events that happened over several weekends. Reading, I'm sure you've seen the story, reading texts and emails like that, and the police, it comes across as though the police are being very accommodating to the truckers' protesters. What do you make of that as a city councillor?
Yeah, well, look, we always have to be careful. This was a source of information shared in court without an opportunity for Ottawa Police or the officer specifically to bring the context. I go back to the information I received from city officials and the Ottawa Police prior to the Friday arrival of what was to be a weekend protest. And I can understand when you look at Ottawa receiving over 100 different demonstrations over the year, that police liaison do have this sort of communication with the organizers. Obviously, we're not privy to the evolution of those communications throughout the days, throughout the weeks, so we don't know what else was being shared. To me, the fundamental remains: at what point was this declared an illegal occupation, and how was that conveyed to those organizers? And we're just simply not getting that through those court documents, as you can understand.
Yep. So, what would you like to know? What more would you like to know all of these weeks after that occupation? What's kind of missing for you right now?
So there's two fundamentals at the beginning. The the police chief and the city manager came and met with council. They did an open session with media, I believe on the Wednesday or the Thursday before the arrival of the truckers. And there were a number of fundamental questions that were asked by council, and one that rings to me we need an answer on is, obviously you have a right to protest. Do you have a right to protest with a vehicle? And do you have a right to protest breaking local rules, specifically truck routes, following truck routes or not following truck routes? And at the time, the police chief, Slowly, was under the impression that under the charter, there's a right to freedom of movement, and that's what he referred to. But what we understand is the following weekend, both in Queen's Park and in Quebec City, authorities, did not use the same tactic, which led to a very different outcome. So I'd love to understand the legal environment that went into that briefing, that perspective, and then for us, obviously, understanding the reflection of and the delay around enforcement. What took so long? Why did it take so long? And that really brings into the following conversation around, look, what are the tools in the capital to ensure that residents can maintain a good quality of life, can continue as business owners to operate while respecting that we're a capital city? How do we bring some resiliency to the locals, yet understanding that there will continue to be demonstration, but it can't take down our city like that ever again.
Okay. Moving on, there's a front page story in the Citizen today that the city wants to come up with plans, wants to see plans for the city parkade at 70 Clarence Street in the Byward Market, and the city would like to see what's called a showcase development there. I'm not sure about how firm this 5-year timeline is. As I understand it, that would coincide with the 200th anniversary of the Byward Market. But nevertheless, it's a parking garage now. It could be more, right in the heart of the Byward Market. What would you like to see there?
Rob, it's an aging parking garage. The city wanted to spend last year close to $3 million to refurb it. So that's on hold. Since then, council's approved the Byward Market Public Realm Plan, looking at public investment or investments in the public street network, and it includes a few nodes. This is one of the nodes for which we're interested in seeing a destination building. A destination building is really a showcase. Lansdowne has that with the Aberdeen Pavilion. It has that with the horticulture building. It has that in some ways with the actual sport venues. So we're looking at, right now we're looking for interest, but we're looking for something that really draws local, that draws tourists, that draws everyone throughout the year, not just at a particular season, that there's some activity daytime, but also on during the evenings, and that it can also reflect the various themes and festivals that are going on to the city. So it's wide-ranging. There's some opportunity for commercial, but there's also opportunities for public gathering indoors. There's not a lot of public gathering indoors, as you know, in the Byward Market, which at times can be challenging, specifically when we're thinking of our winter capital city. Okay.
Not another condo tower or a hotel.
No, the Byward Market has heights limit. On the periphery, you're seeing a lot of height on Rideau Street. You're seeing some height on Cumberland. But in the heart of the Byward Market, there's heritage conservation districts in both Lower Town and the Byward Market, and those are meant to reflect the neighborhood character, the historic character of the area. Okay.
In a recent op-ed in the paper, you said, along with your colleagues from upper levels of government, you said the Salvation Army is not listening to its Vanier neighbors as it tries to move ahead with its plan for its new complex on Montreal Road. What more do you want from the Salvation Army?
As you know, we have a mandate by council to create an advisory committee which has brought together a number of stakeholders, the Community Association, the BIA, the Resource Center, the Indigenous leadership in the area. And what we found through those conversations is that local groups in Vanier that work with families, with seniors, with individual in needs feel threatened by the weight of that organization. I'll give you a couple of examples. Salvation Army in its latest plans is saying we want a food bank. Well, we have the busiest food bank in Vanier. If anything, our Partage Vanier Food Bank needs more money to be able to offer more food security resiliency in the neighborhood. The same thing around family services. The Vanier Resource Center offers family services. It offers employment services. So the local organization feel threatened of that kind of entrance into some of the areas where there is existing synergies, there's existing funding, there's existing cohesion within the neighborhood. So the Salvation Army has not responded to that in a meaningful way. It continues to maneuver through its approvals process and wants a May planning committee date. I'm caught by the mandate that council has put on all of us on this advisory group, and as soon as the advisory group completes its work, I'll be calling a public meeting so that the community and residents of the city can hear and see what's planned by the Salvation Army at 333 Montreal Road in the site plan review.
All right. Finally, I'm asking everybody this today. You're a city councillor. Thursday is the federal budget. As a city councillor, what would you like to see in the budget on Thursday?
Rob, that's a good question. I think generally we're hearing from residents issues of affordability, and when you think of affordability, you think of across the spectrum, right? And you're obviously hearing where the federal government's going in terms of childcare. We're unsure about housing spending, specifically affordable housing, and transit. Transit's huge for us as a city. So infrastructure, we could go on and on. I think ultimately we need to the federal government needs to find its priorities. It needs to ensure it's intentional about those investments. And then as a city, we'll continue to advocate for local investments in our recreation infrastructure, our road infrastructure, our transit infrastructure, our housing infrastructure.
Okay. Hey, great to get caught up with you this morning, even though I couldn't get a big scoop out of you.
You were trying.
I've tried my best. Thank you, Councillor Fleury.
Thanks,
bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Monday, April 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 3 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 4. Here's what's making news this hour. We're expecting provincial legislature to take the wraps off a plan to lower gas and fuel taxes. Apparently, it's going to be over 5 cents a litre and will take effect temporarily on July 1st. Police in Ottawa asking for your help. They're searching for a missing 74-year-old man. Now, Thomas Meyerhoff's car was found at River Road and Vimy Bridge. He's described as 5'8" and slim. He has salt and pepper hair. Full description and picture can be seen at our website, ottawa.citynews.ca. Rumors on both sides of the question, will he or won't he? Mathieu Fleury, currently a councillor, may he run for mayor of Ottawa? When asked this morning on the Rob Snow Show, Fleury says it's too early in the process. He has not made up his mind. The councillor also says he is hoping for a showcase destination building will be a new development in the Byward Market on Clarence Street. He says the city is looking for an attraction which would bring people to that part of the city year-round. City News Time, 9:31. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
It's budget week for the federal government. Big topic for us this week here on the Rob Snow Show as we talk to interested parties and stakeholders, and Dan Kelly is certainly one of those. He's president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and he's back with us on City News. Good morning.
Good morning.
What are your priorities for the upcoming federal budget?
Oh, gosh, there's plenty. But right at the top of the list is the affordability question for small business. Of course, we all know about what kind of hit we're taking when we all go to the grocery store or buy just about anything right now. But the price increases that small firms have felt on almost every line in their budget has been enormous. Some of them have a role for government to play, a lot of them related, of course, to taxation, like carbon tax increases, liquor tax increases, CPP, EI rates that are set to rise, a whole host of issues on that front.
Okay. So give us some examples of how in a higher inflationary environment, again, the last number that we saw was 5.7%. That was before the invasion of Ukraine, before $100 oil. Nobody expects inflation to cool really anytime soon. It will bring higher interest rates, however. How does that impact one of your members, a business that would be a member of the CFIB?
Yeah, well, if you put it in the context of the last couple of years, for 2 years, at least half of the small business community has just been rocked by COVID restrictions. And we've talked about this many times. Their revenues have been at rock bottom levels. Now there's still, businesses are coming back. There are more customers out there once again, which is a good thing. But the cost increases relative to the revenue increases are really, really hitting us fast. Insurance rates have gone up. The cost of all goods that businesses need, either there's challenges with availability of goods because of supply chain challenges, and then just to get them is an awful lot more expensive. The product itself and the transportation to get to your business. Wage increases have been enormously high over the last little while, and employees, I think, understandably, are expecting more on their paycheck, given the inflationary pressures that they're experiencing. And there's a shortage of labor that's contributing to that, too. And then, of course, there's all the government-imposed costs that come along with this. The feds didn't take a break from that. I mean, you just spoke a second ago about fuel increases. Energy costs have been rising naturally as a result of world events. Is it time that we need to go ahead with the carbon tax increase that just hit us?
Well, apparently, yes. I think we know the answer to that now, Dan. It was answered on Friday, right? So
it's true. It did. I saw an April Fool's joke that was going to be canceled, but that unfortunately was not true. Yeah. Businesses are really taking it on the chin. Of course, then we have the worries about the state of the federal budget overall. There has been tons of COVID-related spending, but now with the NDP Liberal agreement focusing almost exclusively on the creation of or expansion of social programs, we got to be careful here because there's a lot of things that Canadians want, but somebody's going to have to pay for them.
Sure. And you know, on that, let's just stick with that for a moment. I have some more questions that I may want to backtrack to, but on ideas like pharmacare or dental care, would it be one of your concerns that there may be an employer contribution to programs like that would be necessary?
In the short term, it seems the government is going to just add that to the till and finance that. But you know, we know that these costs ultimately have to find somebody that's willing to pay for them, and governments then look around for what vehicle can be used, and small firms, sadly, are often the recipients of some of these costs at the end of the system. There's not a room for businesses that are already still revenue starved to start anteing up giant new tax rates for some of these programs. And if we choose not to do that, if we insulate everybody from that, we can only play that game for so long before the budget gets so out of whack that then we have to turn to fiscal measures in order to repay it. So there's some difficult choices. All we're asking the federal government to do is slow down the train on the creation of new programs or expansion of others until we've determined how we're going to pay for them. That needs to be part of the equation before they're just signed off on an agreement between two political parties.
Okay. Now, to backtrack just for a moment here, with the higher inflationary environment, the higher input costs, higher energy costs, higher labor costs, whatever the case might be, what are potential remedies from the government then to problems like that?
Yes. So one thing is that there could be another year of EI freeze added. Employment insurance rates are expected to rise for many, many years to come. The feds did freeze them to their credit for 2 years during the pandemic, but that's not set to be the case for this year, for the January 1st, 2023. The same could happen for CPP premiums. We've been urging government not to continue to jack up Canada Pension Plan premiums during the pandemic, as they have a huge impact on the labor bill and the wage bill for employers. That could be remedied. They could take a retroactive view of many provinces. Ontario is now signaling that they're going to be rolling back gas taxes. That's something that the feds do have control over. It's certainly not something that I suspect that will happen, but it is something that is within the power of government to do, is to take a temporary break from the rapid increase in carbon taxation that is going on. So those are three of the measures that they could take to try to ensure that small firms are not taking it. They could also help us on the labor front, expanding immigration and the temporary foreign worker program. There are some signals there. There may be some good news on that, but those would certainly be welcome moves if that was included in the budget.
Okay. Where does it stand right now with a lot of the pandemic-related relief programs that would be beneficial to businesses that you represent? Things like the CEBA loan program or the wage and rent subsidies. What's the status of those programs right now?
So there's news on all of them, and then we're hoping that there may be some extensions in this budget. But the CEBA loan program is closed to new applicants, so nobody can get additional loans from the government at this stage. Of the existing loans that are out there, they're either $40,000 or $60,000 in the hands of businesses. The Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, did announce, I think early this year, that the deadline to repay the loans to keep the forgivable portion would be extended until the end of 2023, and that was certainly welcome news. On the wage subsidy, the rent subsidy, and the Canada Recovery Hiring Program, which was another really good one, all those programs, unfortunately, are set to end, I think, May 4th. So we've got only about another month of help from those programs. I'm not expecting the feds to extend the wage and the rent subsidies, but what I am hoping is that they will extend the Canada Recovery Hiring Program. This was meant as a recovery measure, not as a pandemic support, to help businesses with their hiring. any small business that's listening to you right now, they can apply. If their revenues are down by 10% or more, they can get up to a 50% wage subsidy on any new hiring that they do, any new wages that they offer employees through wages or additional hours that they are giving to staff. That's really helpful. But the recovery really, Rob, that really began, in our view, on March the 1st, 2022, when the restrictions started to come off. But the program was announced last fall. It really didn't take off because no business was really able to recover. So that's why we're asking the Deputy Prime Minister to extend that program out. We suggested until September.
Okay, generally speaking, how would you describe business conditions right now and the confidence of business owners?
So it's a shaky recovery, I will say. We put out some data just on Friday of last week that shows that the optimism levels of small firms finally have started to rise. And that's as a result of the end of COVID restrictions. More customers are beginning to come back. We're hoping to have some new data on that. But still, there are at least half of businesses that are not back to normal levels of revenue. They're not back to pre-COVID levels. That's half of the business community. And so we're still a long way from recovering. On top of that, even businesses that have seen their revenues recover, and they perhaps are back to 2019 levels, they are now saddled with, on average, $160,000 worth of COVID debt. So, in fact, they need to make above average profits if they're going to be able to repay the loans that they've taken out just to survive the pandemic. And as I said, with costs being so much higher than revenues, that math is not on the small business owner's side.
Yeah. And sensitive to higher interest rates, Dad? Sensitive to higher?
Yeah. The CEBA loan program, fortunately, is interest-free until the end of 2023. So of that $160,000 worth of new debt, let's say the average small firm has got $60,000 of that in an interest-free loan. So that's helpful. They can repay it without having to incur large charges. But on the rest of that $100,000 that they now owe, they're getting interest, and obviously most of it's in lines of credit and other vehicles, which are attracting interest, and that's a worry.
Okay. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Thank you, Dan Kelly.
Anytime at all.
Yep. The president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, Dan Kelly. Barry McLaughlin from Transformational Leadership Consultants coming up next here on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
Are you for or against us? We are trying to get somewhere, looking around for a helping hand. We're doing our best to keep it steady, stop it falling down around us. Armed around each other's shoulders, we go everywhere. Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? John Jack and the boys being a band on a one-night stand. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll succeed where others failed and stay together many years and watch us take the world by storm. Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? John Jack and the boys being a band on a one-night stand. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. We'll be dancing in the floodlight. Second to none, not even on a bad night. Are you for or against us? We are trying to get somewhere, looking around for a helping hand. We're doing our best to keep it steady, stop it falling down around us. Arms around each other's shoulders, we go everywhere. you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Are you in? Are you out? Do you care to dance about and shout? Join Jack and the boys be in a band on a one-night stand.
Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Barry McLaughlin's been known to have a few opinions of his own. He's the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. He's a fellow of the Masters of Political Management program at Carleton University. He's an adjunct professor in the MBA program at Cape Breton University Shannon School of Business. He's with us every Monday morning. Good morning.
And it wouldn't be Monday without you, Rob. How are you?
Oh, that's so kind of you to say. No, it's nice to hear from you, Barry. I hope you had a great weekend.
I did.
Everybody was really happy through parts of the weekend. Nice, some nice mild weather and some sunshine, right?
Yeah, I got some gardening in. It was great.
Gardening, wow, gardening. Okay, there you go.
It's a psychological thing, right? You go from shoveling to gardening. It's very important.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. I don't know what to call it. Pieromania? What do you somebody has to come up with a term for it. But look, everywhere Pierre Poilievre goes, he is attracting huge crowds. He packed them into the Infinity Center in Ottawa on Thursday night. I took some calls the next morning from some people who were there. They get there, even before the event starts. The parking lot is full. They have to park, like a block away from the event center. Yeah. Some people are being turned away after he comes out and makes his speech. There's a line that must last an hour for people to get selfies with the guy. Yeah. And I mean, it's night after night in facility after facility. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think it's quite amazing, really, because I know, we never saw a lot of signs of that in the recent years. It's hard to do that during pandemic, but even, he was never sort of a big crowd guy that anybody was aware of, that he could draw a crowd. For an opposition member, throwing his hat into the ring, after 3 or 4 successive losses of a party, it's quite something to see this. So I think he's hit the zeitgeist of his voter universe, which is those that are angry with the status quo, those who want government out of their business. Yes, he does seem to attract the, those Canadians that basically, whether they're actual Freedom Convoy people, but certainly supporters, he gets all of them. It's a huge whack, quite something to watch.
Okay. Does it necessarily mean anything for his political fortunes?
Oh, yeah.
It does. Yeah,
I think it does.
So?
I think it gives him momentum, coverage, all the things, the earned media, we would call that.
Earned media. Right.
Earned media. He's earning tons of media. We're even talking about it right now. It's earned media, a couple of $1,000 worth of, I don't know what your advertising rates are there, but thousands of dollars worth of free publicity. He gets that everywhere he goes. And of course, don't forget June 3rd, you got to sign up as many members as you can, and I believe that's the absolutely critical thing. You've got to sign those members up. After that, you're kind of swaying them for second and third ballot support, but you've got to get that first ballot really nailed.
Right.
So it's a flat out, very short period of time now, 2 months to get those members signed up.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just thinking out loud here, when you say earned media, what other news organizations are covering what other campaign events? Right.
Well, yeah.
Nothing really comes to mind, right?
Yeah. I mean, I attended a Jean Charest Zoom call. He had a couple hundred people. I was quite impressed with his sharpness of mind, passion, energy, clear policy proposals. Really well done. He's in his element in that. Of course, it doesn't create a sense of occasion that, a live event does.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to step up that because, he's good in a crowd, but you haven't seen him much in a crowd.
Well, I haven't seen that on YouTube.
No.
Or,
so, it's
tweets
pretty
about
important.
it or anything like that.
And don't forget, a lot of this is perception in the world of politics. And it's very important for Jean Charest, who we haven't seen, of course, on the national stage in about a decade. He's got to really show he's still got it. And if you don't do it live at events or debates or whatever they're going to have, that's what he's got to get into. So it's a challenge for him to overcome this. But don't forget, I think one other major thing that's happened is we're not getting the social conservative thing. The last leadership races, it was always social conservatives versus more kind of red Tories. That dynamic has shifted. We're not hearing much about social conservatives at all. It is a different kind of division in the party, not really based on social conservatism.
No, it's more, it seems to, with Pierre anyway, it seems to have a more libertarian bent to it than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's actually true. It's the role of government.
The role of government, yeah.
Distrust of government and so on. And I think that's a new dividing point, and it's hard to be on both sides of that. We always say that in politics, these various voter segments are disruptive, meaning that, you won't naturally go to the next one. If these kind of conservatives backing Pierre don't get their man, in this case, they won't automatically go to Jean Charest. And vice versa. If Charest doesn't win, they don't automatically come in to Poilievre's camp because they're disruptive votes in that sense.
Okay. All right. Well, it's fascinating to watch. It really is. Yeah. At the provincial level, Doug Ford, and again, all of this is wrapped up in election politics as well. The election in Ontario is less than 2 months away. Yeah. He's supposed to be in it for the little guy. 4 years ago, he was promising to lower hydro bills. He was promising lower gas prices. He fought and lost on the carbon tax and has been blaming the Trudeau government ever since, of course, on that. But nevertheless, now Bruckabeer, he's promising to lower gas prices ahead of the election by lowering the provincial gas tax. Yeah. First of all, what do you think of that? And then I'm kind of going somewhere with this.
One thing that I've learned in the world of politics is when people get an actual check, so they'll receive, that, they'll receive their GST credit checks, they'll receive all kinds of things, especially the license sticker renewal thing. They're going to receive that directly. See, people trust that more than X% cut in income taxes. They never believe they quite get it anyway. It kind of dissipates. Even though it's worth billions of dollars, those kind of cuts, people don't really believe it. It doesn't really have much of an impact, right? But when they receive a payment in their box office or direct deposit or whatever, they believe that they're doing something for them. And I think Ford absolutely has figured that out.
Yeah, the thing is with this promise is I will cut the price of gas in July. So well, thanks a lot. Oh, you mean after the election? Oh, okay, after the election.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Would it have the same impact if it was, it was April 1st to offset carbon tax increases? That would have been helpful. Yeah. But anyway, I guess the promise of it is better than zero in the short window.
Yeah. So you have Ford promising to lower the gas price in July for 6 months, so for the rest of the year. You have Legault. He's up for re-election as well this fall. Everyone in Quebec gets $500.
Yeah, wow.
Okay? Doesn't matter if you make $99,000 or $9,000, you all get $500. Even John Horgan of the New Democrats out in British Columbia. $110 one time only because of inflation in BC. That'll get you a quarter of a tank of gas. New York State, let me go on here, Barry. New York State Legislature contemplating gas tax rebates. Gavin Newsom, California, similar thing, $400. If you own a car, I'll give you $400. He's up for re-election too. But I mean, New York State, California, blue, like blue as blue can be, liberal. Meantime, on Friday, Trudeau raised the carbon tax. Okay, Trudeau raised the carbon tax. Now, it's only 2 cents a liter, but it's like, what message are you sending? The message that he's sending to me is you are out of touch with everyday Canadians right now. What do you think?
Well, people want tangible action on climate change, green economy, that's all part of it. Price on carbon, even Geoffrey the other day on the Zoom call said he's in favor of a price of carbon, but he wants it done differently and so on. So if you don't price carbon, then what are you talking about? So I think it's one of those things that the voter universe of the Liberals is there. He's not going to change opinion by raising it 2 cents or dropping it 2 cents. So I don't think it affects, but he has to be careful. Like I've always felt that on carbon tax, people want to know what's the actual impact. How does 2 cents, 5 cents, whatever carbon tax, how does that really do anything?
Yeah.
Is it just a vacuum to suck up taxes from people's pockets? They don't really know tangibly the impact of the carbon tax. And I think the government certainly has a challenge in that case. And of course, the opposition have to say, if you're not going to do that, how are you going to take it seriously? So it's one of those ones that probably won't lose them anything. It probably won't gain them anything either.
Okay. Speaking of inflation and the cost of living, and multiple polling firms are now saying that's the number one concern for Canadians now is inflation, the rising cost of living. The federal budget is on Thursday. How important is it that that's at least recognized by Chrystia Freeland when she delivers the budget?
Yeah, I think she has to have something for that. I mean, we don't quite know what the magic thing. There's no magic thing to correct supply chain. There's no magic solution to a lot of those things. They're longer-term plays. You are going to see huge amounts of money for defense procurement. You're going to see huge, because Ukraine has brought to the fore things that were allowed to sit in the back burner. Cyber intelligence stuff, that's all going to be mega billions, right?
Yep.
And I think that's one major thing. The second thing is, of course, she's had to deal with all these things in the past few months. The other one is the deal with the NDP. They apparently in this year they've got to put in the billions for dental care, and so it's really jacking up the spending side of the equation. Apparently, the number one concern on that is to make sure that the tax per GDP continues to fall, because that sort of shows that you're not out of control. But it will be a lot of spending, no matter what they do. That'll be a lot of spending, and it's hard to see through the spending how you get inflation down, how you get rising cost of products down, et cetera, et cetera. So that one, maybe there will be some indicators in there, but people want to know that you care about it and that you're doing something. Housing, I think, is a huge issue.
Yes.
And apparently they are lining up for that one too. So they have a lot of things flying up in the air, trying to manage them and trying to juggle them. But all done in the last, all this has been the final few months, all these major changes. So it'd be interesting to see what emerges out of it all.
Sure will be. A lot of it'll be leaked.
Yeah.
Budget
days, yeah.
That's how they operate now,
The old days, it was
not like the
such
old days.
secret. If you were to leak that, look out.
Yeah.
Now they leak it all to favored outlets, to favored reporters, to make sure they get the message out so they shape expectations in advance. That's been the art for many years now. Very, very different way of doing it.
Yeah. This is Doug Small, I think. Remember?
Doug Small, Global News. That's right.
Got the budget. He leaked the budget, remember?
Yeah.
And they went after him. They called the cops on him, remember?
And they had to change something in the budget so it wouldn't technically be the same budget.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Talk to you soon, Barry. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Barry McLaughlin with us every Monday, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Talkback Hour is coming up next. Yeah, budget on Thursday. We're going to be talking a lot about that this week. What's on your budget wish list? Rob, I wish this XYZ was part of the budget. Give me a call, 750-1310, Rob Snow Show on City News.
Being a crossing guard works great as part of my schedule as a high school student because I still have time to do my tests and assignments while earning a little bit of cash on the side.
Working as a crossing guard fits into my current lifestyle because it gives me a lot of time during the day to pursue hobbies that I'm very interested in.
A friend of mine introduced me to this job. I didn't know it was actually a paid job.
I always start my day. It's a very little, I guess, few months baby, and she always comes with her dad on a pram, and the smile she has, like, oh my God.
Well, I think the OSC is a very good employer. They show quite clearly that they care about you. They're very polite.
They really make you feel like you're part of a family.
It's fun. I really enjoy it.
Gets us out of the house, too.
Yeah.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Monday, April 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Temporary relief from the high cost of fuel. The provincial government says it plans to temporarily reduce the tax on gasoline and diesel. The PC government says it will introduce legislation if passed. This would lower the gas tax by 5.7 cents per litre and the fuel tax, so that includes diesel, by 5.3 cents per litre, and this will happen for 6 months. The change would take effect on July 1st, but end on December 31st. We're expecting the legislation to be introduced this afternoon at Queen's Park. City News time 10:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Varying amounts of sun and cloud, the high near 10 degrees. The average high is about 8. Tonight, mainly cloudy, -1. Tomorrow, sun and cloud, and up to 11. For today, the high, 10.
And right now in Ottawa, 3 degrees. It's 4 degrees in Smiths Falls. The search is on for a missing 74-year-old Ottawa man. Police hoping you can help find Thomas Meyerhoff. His vehicle was found around River Road and Vimy Bridge area. Now, Thomas is described as white, 5 feet 8 inches tall, with a slim build. He has short salt and pepper hair and is clean shaven. Police description also has him with crossed eyes and a fair complexion. Anyone who thinks they spot him is asked to contact Ottawa Police. A GoFundMe page has now exceeded its goal for a victim's funeral. 24-year-old Marie Gabriel was found dead in a Hetherington Road home last Monday. A 40-year-old man has been charged with second-degree murder. Now, the $10,000 goal was topped this morning. Money raised will pay for her funeral, and any leftover cash will go to her children, who are age 1 and 2 years. You can find a link to the GoFundMe at ottawa.citynews.ca. Family members of Marie will also be on the Sam LaPrade show this afternoon at 1:30. City News time 10:03. Russia is facing a fresh wave of condemnation now after evidence of what appears to be the deliberate killings of civilians in Ukraine.
Ukrainian officials say the bodies of 410 civilians have been found in towns around the capital Kiev that were recaptured from Russian forces in recent days. In Bucha, northwest of the capital, Associated Press journalists have seen 21 bodies. Now, some Western leaders have called for further sanctions in response to the alleged atrocities, even as Moscow continues to press its offensive in the country's east. For example, Germany's defense minister is suggesting the EU discuss a ban on Russian gas imports. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And the UN Health Agency says nearly everybody in the world breathes air that does not meet its standard for quality. The World Health Organization calling for more action to reduce fossil fuel use that generate pollutants. Over 6,000 municipalities were measured. The database measures what's known as PM2.5 and PM10, and for the first time, ground measurements of nitrogen dioxide. It says the air quality is poorest in the Eastern Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, and Africa. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
What would be on your federal budget wish list? More money for health care, more money for long-term care, more money for pharmacare, dental care, child care. How about more money for the OAS, Old Age Security, or GIS, Guaranteed Income Supplement? Improve seniors' benefits. How about something that would make housing more affordable? How about something that would make post-secondary education more affordable, like a tuition rebate or something? More money for national defense. That's part of the rumor mill ahead of federal budget day, which is Thursday. How about this for an idea? I could hear this coming from Poilievre's mouth. How about this? Stop spending more money. Bring in a hiring freeze. Bring in a spending freeze. Do a universal program review. Something like that, for the fiscal hawks. Basic income, rent supplements, fuel tax rebate, income tax cut. How about a wealth tax? Go after those billionaires. They're not paying their fair share. Look, we can take this in any and all directions. You're in charge of the budget, okay? What do you put in there? What's on your budget wish list? Because it's budget week. That's going to be one of the biggest stories of the week. Federal budget comes down on Thursday, and there will be, lots of speculation and well-placed and well-timed leaks before that. 750-1310 is our phone number here, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. There is one news story about the budget already today. Imagine this, a story all ready to go from the CBC, quotes and interviews and everything, and the budget isn't even coming out until Thursday. Low-cost internet for low-income seniors will be part of the budget on Thursday. And it's going to go on like that for the remainder of the week. Today it's low-cost internet for low-income seniors. Today that's in the news. Tomorrow there will probably be something else in the news about the budget. And then the next day, there'll be another budget story. And by the time Thursday rolls around, what's in the budget won't actually be much of a mystery. There was a time when the federal budget was supposed to be kept under wraps, under lock and key, until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on budget day for fear it would move the markets. And if you were a news reporter and you got your hands on a copy of the budget and blabbed it all over the news media, they'd throw you in jail. Or at least they'd threaten to. But the government now, it likes to leak the so-called good news parts of the budget to the media outlets, which is all fine and dandy if you're one of the chosen media outlets. Anyway, let's say you're the finance minister, okay? And you get to put something in the budget to make it easier for Canadians to deal with these difficult times that we are living in. What would you do? What would you put in there? You're the Minister of Finance for the day. Well, for an hour anyway. 750-1310. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. It's the Talk Back Hour on a Monday morning. Budget week. Cameron, downtown. Good morning, Cameron.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, hi there.
How are you?
Good. Thank you, sir.
Good. So,
what would you put in the budget?
I'm not sure what I would put, but here's what I would do.
Okay, all right.
I used to, and regarding to finances and the cost of living, so it's relevant. I used to work for Revenue Canada. I've stated before on the show, and I've seen firsthand how, at the highest point of Revenue Canada, how they treat taxpayers. The things I have heard, how they talk about taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I think what we should do is reform Revenue Canada completely from top to bottom.
Oh, okay.
We need tax reform in this country completely because we keep being told, we're funded, healthcare is funded, there's so much funding, this, and that. Just for example, I had to go for cardiac condition over the weekend.
Oh, sorry.
I went to General.
Yep.
There's not a doctor there. There's only one. I said, where are they? I said, don't answer that. I know where they are. They all left the country. So things like that, we need to reform taxation.
Yeah.
We need to review where the funding is going in this country
Right.
and if it's actually being used for proper use.
Yep.
Here's another thing.
Okay.
Why is it that he's only going to do this in July on the condition that he gets reelected? I don't think people care right now whether he gets reelected or not. People care about saving money.
Yes.
And this guy is going to do this in July. So his comm staff that wrote the speech for him and the announcement, because that's how it works, did not one of them say, hey, this is going to look really bad. Why can he not do it now? He's the premier now.
Yeah.
Make the change now.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Why
maybe it's something he should have been working on this like many months ago. I think a lot of people are probably like you, Cameron. Thank you for your call. They're good. They're going to see it as an election goodie, right? I'll cut the gas tax. I guess the legislation's being introduced today. The clock is ticking on the legislative session, but. The fact that it's not going to take effect until July, some people will say, okay, what good is that doing me today? I need the savings today. I'm probably going to need savings in July too. But nevertheless, it's the Talkback Hour, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Your budget wish list. What's on your budget wish list? I'd love to hear it. Okay? A new spending program or something you don't want to spend money on. Stop spending money on that. That's a waste of money. Why are you spending money on that? Something to rein in spending. Whatever it happens to be. If you're the Minister of Finance, you have another name. You're supposed to be known as the Minister of No. Because at budget time, everyone has their hand out. Everyone wants something from you. Special interests, big lobbyists on Bay Street, NGOs, environmental organizations, the lower levels of government. They all want something from you. And your job, if you're the Minister of Finance, is to be the Minister of No. No. Sorry. Can't do it. Can't afford it. Maybe someday, but not today. Will we hear such words from Chrystia Freeland? How often will Chrystia Freeland be able to say no? I guess we'll find out Thursday for sure. Maybe sooner. Just given the recent history. Could be leaked before then. Armand. Hi, Armand. Yeah, good morning, Armand. What would you like to see in the budget or not see in the budget?
Well, I would like to see, number one, is housing to be dealt with.
Housing.
The way they're handling things now is pretty bad. The prices are going up for no reason at all.
Oh, it's crazy.
And hospital care, health care, got to be looked at too. What's going on with all that stuff? There's a lot of stuff that's not quite right here,
Yes.
Doctors on the internet, basically. That's all we've got now. And
okay. So health care, housing prices. Yeah, you'd like something done. Carbon tax.
That is
okay.
ridiculous. People don't realize, Rob, that the batteries itself down the road are going to be worse polluters than what we have now. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but that is a question. What do you do with all those batteries from all those electric cars? Yeah, yep.
That's going to be a big problem down the road. And people don't realize that, but when it hits them in the face, they're going to say, "Oh no, what do we do now?" And plus,
well, you'd like to see investments in healthcare.
Yes.
Right? Housing. Now, you said housing keeps going up for no reason at all, but it must be going up for a reason. Not enough houses. That might be one, right? Low interest rates. That would be another reason houses are going up. Fear of missing out, I think, is speculation fueling a lot of it.
But if there's no houses out there, why would you put up a price? What for? Just keep everything as is. If yours comes up on the market, sell it like it's the market value. Not crazy value, but from 2 years ago.
Well, if the market value is crazy value, I mean...
Well, I'm referring to...
somebody came along and offered you crazy value and not market value, you'd take crazy value, Armand, not market value. Come on, who wouldn't? Come on, Armand, let's go.
I know. I would. I'm talking about 2 years ago, market value 2 years ago, not current market value. Market today is just crazy.
Yeah.
But,
okay. All right.
That's my point.
And carbon tax. Stop raising the carbon tax. Yeah, I like that one. 10:15 on a Monday morning, getting your budget wishes. I'm taking your wishes. Not necessarily granting them, but I'm willing to listen. Rob Snow Show, City News.
I'm Emily Bertrand, the owner of Royale Equestrian Center. This is Diamond. She's a 10-year-old thoroughbred. She used to be a racehorse and then made the transition to a riding horse. She loves jumping, and she's used for our more advanced students. So we started the farm 14 years ago with my mom and brother. My brother was actually driving by one day and saw the sign, and we applied. There were 60 applicants, and we got it. When we first started, there was not very much here, so our property's about 25 acres, and there was just this 100-year-old barn. And from there, we built onto it. We fixed up one stall at a time, one paddock at a time. We added one horse at a time, and slowly it built into what it is today. Every year, we're improving and trying to continue to build. And most recently, we added 2 shed row barns this year. I love horses. I've been obsessed with horses since I was a little girl. The first time I got to ride, I was 4 years old, and I just loved it. My mom thought it was going to be a phase, and that phase never ended. I kept riding all through high school, and then eventually, started Royale Equestrian Center. It was my dream to always own a farm and to build a place that I could share my passion for horses with others and do the same thing for the kids that the horses did for me. So I absolutely love it. It's a dream come true. COVID hit, that was challenging. I was pretty stressed, especially the first few months, trying to figure out how are we going to navigate all of this. Our business is based on people coming in. We don't make much revenue if there's nobody coming in to ride. So that was really challenging. And then the other aspect of it was how are we going to care for all these horses if we're fully shut down and there's no income coming in. So we worked really hard. Some of our team were so kind to actually just come in and volunteer and help us out. And we made through it. We got through it. It's been hard and a lot of work, but it's also shown us how resilient we can be. So I'm happy with how we're coming out of COVID. Hopefully this is, we're nearing the end of all the shutdowns, but we've, survived it and now we're starting to thrive again, which is great. So we have a great team. We have about 14 coaches, and then we have all our regular barn staff. We have our maintenance manager and crew, and if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to do this. It takes a huge amount of people, and then we also have a volunteer program. The volunteer program, it helps with us, especially with our beginner program, so they help with tacking up the horses and caring for the horses when we're really busy, and then they also get to gain some work experience. We take co-op students on. We're quite a busy and vibrant place, and it takes a lot of people to make it work, even through to behind the scenes from our accountants, my family, who are always stepping in to help out. It takes a small village.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
What are you putting on your budget wish list? The premiers want more money for health care. Do you want more money for health care? Think of the tragedy, the The deplorable conditions in long-term care. It's budget time. Do you think the federal government has a role to play there, or is it just a provincial responsibility, long-term care? The NDP wants the federal government to make pharmacare a priority so people can afford their prescriptions. Is that a problem that you would like addressed? It's budget time. What about dental care for people that don't have a benefits plan? Is that a priority for you? OAS, GIS. We have a housing affordability crisis. Do you want that addressed? It's budget time. What about going to college or university? NATO wants us to spend more money on national defense. Should we? In your opinion, should we? Some might say, hey, why don't you stop spending so much money? Why don't you stop raising the carbon tax? Joe Biden right now in the United States is pushing a new billionaires tax, a tax on the billionaire class, that they're not paying their fair share. You're in charge of the budget. Give me your budget wish list. I want to know what's a priority for you. It's your money, after all. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. I mean, speaking of that housing affordability crisis, this was part of my Snow and 60 commentary this morning about how crazy the housing market. The Globe and Mail real estate section. Some of the deals that they put in there, they're just unbelievable. And they had one the other day in the Friday paper. It's just, and they have the picture of the house. It's a tiny little house, a tiny little thing. It has 675 square feet of living space, and they still call it a bungalow. 675 square feet, David, at 259 Adeline Avenue in Hamilton. Okay? Two bedroom, no basement. No basement. But it's listed for $449,000 in January of this year. It's on the market for 6 days. It gets 16 bids. There's basically a bidding war on for this house. It sells for $675,100. A 675 square foot house, 2-bedroom house with no basement. No basement.
It's $1,000 a square foot.
$226,000 over the asking price. So the buyers, they bought this house. They're going to fix it up and rent it out. That was their plan. They're going to rent it out, but then the market went crazy. The last time they bought this house, January of 2021, like a little more than a year ago, they bought it for $336,000. They just sold it for, what was the selling? $675,000. They doubled their money in a year. Doubled their money in a year. That's all kinds of crazy. That is what you call a housing affordability crisis. What do you want the government to do about it, though? That's a tougher answer. Tom in the West End, you're on City News. Tom.
Hello.
Tom, it's budget week. I'm trying to compile a wish list for the budget. What's on your wish list for the budget?
Actually, it's been on the wish list for quite a while, and I think the main point would be that when the Panama Papers came out, it identified, who was avoiding tax and taking money offshore.
Okay.
So they know who those people are now, but they're not doing anything as far as I can tell, or they're not telling us that they're doing anything. So I think wealth inequality, if people make a good salary, maybe they can survive, but people at the bottom end, the price just keeps going up, and more people keep falling off the bottom end. So,
okay.
Taxes. I'm an old fella.
Yep. But cracking down on people doing tax evasion.
Right. In the 50s and 60s, my dad, an immigrant, one salary could afford a home, car, and a vacation. And life seemed quite a bit different.
Right.
And I think the marginal tax rate, of somebody earning, let's say, over in that day over $200,000, which was, wealth back then, was in the 70, 80, 90%.
Wow.
And, the big companies, the rich people can afford lawyers and accountants to, take on the government.
Okay.
Us little guys can't do that. So there's lots of other things we could do, but I think that one, if the government could say wealth inequality is no longer an issue, we're still going to have problems, but we won't have, there won't be so many people falling off the end at the low end.
So you don't think the wealthy pay their fair share, that the wealthy should pay more?
I think it's pretty well proven.
Pretty well proven. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yep. So there you go. 750-1310. There's one idea. Wealth taxes. In the United States, Joe Biden's wealth tax would kick in at like uber wealthy, like north of $100 million. $100 million. We're not passing the hat for you, but that he's talking about an ultra high net worth wealth tax being spun as the billionaire's tax. But everyone wants something, right? Everyone wants something. And the NDP certainly wants a lot of things. I mean, it signed a peace accord with Justin Trudeau, right? 3 years, 4 budgets over 3 years. Okay, we're not going to defeat you until 2025. You're safe until 2025. But then the Democrats are saying, we want to see progress on our wish list. And on our wish list, we have things like pharmacare, and we have things like dental care. That's what we have on our wish list. Is that on your wish list? Pharmacare? Dental care? Bill in Ottawa, you're on City News. Bill.
Yes, sir. I've got
Hi, Bill.
3 ideas.
3 ideas. I love to hear them. Yep.
One is expenditures.
Yep.
Let's restrict the government expenditures each year to the CPI.
Okay.
They understate it every year for the calculation of pensions, etc.
Okay.
So let them live with it.
Okay. All right.
Secondly, tax. Let's tax family trusts.
Family trusts.
Mr. Trudeau, of course, but he's willing to pay.
Okay. I don't know how trusts are treated right now, so...
Well, whatever. They've been getting a sweet deal. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many rich people with them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Last is greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
The government is our wise steward. They know everything. Mm-hmm. So let's them show us the way. We got to reduce 40% in 8 years. That's 5% a year.
40 to 45%, yes.
Let them reduce it 1.5 times that rate. Show us the way.
Right.
So 7.5% per year on all their activities, except for transfers to individuals. And no offsets. I mean, that's just BS. They want real reductions. They can show us the way.
In their own operations.
In their own operations.
Yeah.
Especially the Prime Minister's office.
Right. Maybe, limit the motorcades, limit the travel. Do you really need to have, let's count him here. He lives at Rideau Cottage, 24 is empty, and we've spent $11 million at Harrington Lake. Do you really need 3 houses?
All the travel.
All the travel? Sure, yeah.
And every 3 months they got a report on the federal government's carbon consumption.
Okay.
And, none of this, we'll tell you at the end of it all. So let them show us what we're supposed to do. They're so wise.
Yes.
Pick the target.
Yep. I love it, Bill. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye. Yep. Back right after the news, budget wish list on a Monday. It's budget week, and this is the Rob Snow Show, and this is City News.
Some loving and the feeling is strong.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lee Evans, and I am so excited to be performing for Encore Ottawa 3. I think my music really represents me and the message that I feel like I feel like I'm constantly in this search for happiness, and sometimes I'm getting it, like sometimes I'm nailing it, and sometimes I'm just like I'm not, which I think maybe is like the story of so many of us. And I love for my music to have a feeling of joy, but I recognize that you can have sadness as well. So I tend to have music that really floats and moves along human emotions because that's real life.
Make this feeling last. Try to make magic happen, but you put in up a fight. So I'll be alone.
I was so excited when I found out that I was given this grant to be able to make this concert because I knew it was going to be the first opportunity that I was able to play these songs for others. This album was recorded really, truly in isolation in the sense that I wrote the music by myself and everybody was in their little, homes recording each of their parts. And so nobody ever got together in a room together to play this music. So you're gonna see, I think, the joy of playing live, of being together. And you're gonna see why I think organizations like Oh Mike exist, so that musicians can be out here in Ottawa creating. And there's one element missing, the live audience is missing, but I know that people at home will definitely feel like what we're trying to put out.
Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Monday, April 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 5 degrees. Here's what's making news this hour. A break at the pumps for a half a year. Provincial government about to introduce legislation today, which would lower the tax between 5.3 and 5.7 cents for diesel and gas. This would be in effect from July 1st to December 31st if passed. Province also moved ahead with a single game sports betting from more providers than OLG today. It's the first day that dozens of operators can accept sports and online casino bets. While the government hasn't said what this could be worth, some sources estimate up to $800 million a year. Councillor Mathieu Fleury thinks a new development in the Byward market to replace an aging parking structure on Clarence has to be something that attracts large groups of people year-round. Fleury says the city is looking for a showcase destination building on Clarence. Latest condemnation for Russia's war in Ukraine comes from Britain. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's office calls the killing of Ukrainian civilians barbaric, but he did not call it a genocide as others have. A slight uptick in the number of people in hospital with COVID today. The province says its figures show 857 patients compared to 763 yesterday. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Second half of the Talk Back Hour. Talking about your money and the way government spends it. Going to be a lot of talk about that this week. All the great ideas from the bright light bulbs of government. Because it's budget week. And I want to know what would be on your federal budget wish list. For example, lots of talk about healthcare. That it was a real wake-up call. The pandemic was a wake-up call for the healthcare system. And if you're going to spend money on anything, gosh darn it, spend it on healthcare or long-term care. After the tragedy in long-term care because of the pandemic, let's have a lasting solution to long-term care. You have the New Democrats pushing for universal pharmacare and universal dental care. What about more money for, what about our seniors and, OAS or GIS or people David's age who are desperately losing hope that they will ever be able to afford a house? Am I understating that?
It's gone.
It's gone.
Right,
no, there is no hope. It's already hopeless. Okay. It's already
months.
hopeless. I see. Okay. Making tuition more affordable used to hear that every budget year, right? Tuition is too high. National defense has not been a spending priority for the government in a very long time, but now it is all of a sudden with the Russia invasion of Ukraine. And, It's not going unnoticed that Canada spends 1.3, maybe 1.4% of its GDP on national defense, and the NATO benchmark is 2%, and there are a few countries, not many, that spend more than 2%. And if Canada's going to spend to the 2% benchmark that NATO would like to see, well, you're talking billions of dollars. Then you're going to have fiscal hawks, like Polyev, who are saying, look, the reason inflation is running at 6% is because you can't stop spending money. Stop spending money. Stop raising taxes. Stop raising the carbon tax. How about giving me an income tax and taxing the billionaires more? Ideas like that. Look, you're in charge of the budget. You're in charge of the budget, okay? Give me your budget wish list. 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. Fernando, you're on City News. Good morning, Fernando.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, sir. What would be on your budget wish list?
Okay, I got a list here.
Oh, you
so
got
I'll ring them off pretty quick.
Okay, take your time.
Okay, stop the carbon taxes. Enough. This is just creating tons of inflation. So that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, we need to invest in pipelines, coast to coast. We have the third largest reserves. We need to take advantage of them, period. Or we'll never get out of this debt.
Okay.
Number three, we need to invest in farmers. Farmers need help. Absolutely. We are the food source of the world. We could be essentially feed the world if we actually put our minds to it, all right? That's what we need to do. Yep. We can't forget the military. That's another one. The F-35s, we got to start building ships. We need to start propping up our military.
Well, we are building ships. It would be nice if we actually delivered a few.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like this never-ending job creation project at that shipyard in Halifax.
Absolutely.
It's because once the ships are built, where are the jobs? I guess. Right?
Absolutely. I have a housing solution. And it's actually pretty simple. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
We differentiate between primary residences and everything else. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. We offer people who are buying their homes as a primary residence at the current rate, whatever it is, prime plus whatever a bank gives you.
Okay.
Anything else, commercial, otherwise, investment or otherwise,
recreational, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. You have a premium, a percentage premium. Let's say 2% over what everybody else gets in terms of a primary residence. You take that money and you invest it directly to fund housing, to fund building of public housing. That money alone could differentiate between having the government to spend on housing versus having retail or investment or for fun, having that money reinvested in the country. You throw that at builders, you throw that at the funding public housing and spaces, and you work out agreement with these builders to offer a certain amount or a certain percentage of whatever they build towards public housing so that everybody benefits from short term to long term. So you take that money and reinvest it in the country, but let the commercial end of the economy pay for it and take that money that no government would normally spend it and focus it elsewhere. That would be my idea with housing.
All right. Okay. All right.
Pharma. I got a couple more.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Keep going. Okay. All right.
All right. No pharma, no dental for me in terms of the government funding, but offer tax credits to businesses. With those who offer benefits, those types of benefits, the governments could reduce their income tax in that way. Incentivizing them to do so.
Incentivize the private sector to offer those social
Absolutely.
programs.
Absolutely. All right. Here's a doozy. Freeze politicians' salaries or wages till we balance the budget. If we can't get paid and we're losing through inflation, why are we giving these people raises? They're not doing their job, period. Next, we need to invest in our seniors and vets. We got to take care of these people. They deserve it. Yeah. And out of priorities, this is definitely one of them we have to include.
Okay.
We have to build out the Ring of Fire. Look, we can build out.
Good one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have, again, resources that we can use, that we can tap into, that governments and businesses are ready to invest in. And here we are doing nothing. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Settle the claims with the Indigenous people. We do not need, as a country, to continue with this cloud over our heads. We need to man up to what was happened, do what we got to do to settle these claims so that we can all live in peace. No Indigenous people, no Canadian, nobody feels left out in this country. We need to do this now.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got one more?
Yeah, I got two more, absolutely.
All right.
incentivize professionals like docs. We need docs. We need engineers. We need IT. We need to invest in the labor, trades, carpenters, again, electricians in colleges. Stop with the red tape. Let's get on with this.
Okay.
And we need to stop the last is really corporate loopholes. There's a ton of them. They know it. We know it. We need to close those up.
All right.
If we do that,
all right, Fernando. Are you running? Are you running for office or something?
No, but I've been thinking about this for a long time. And
all right.
You know what?
Sounds like it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Fernando. There, that's pretty well thought out, eh? Yeah. Pretty good. You know, just on national defense. Very popular now, kind of fashionable. You know, hey, let's spend more money on national defense. 2% of our GDP. That would mean we would have to spend $40 billion a year, $40 billion a year, which is 70% more than what we spend now. So if you spend an extra, whatever it works out to be, $17 billion, well, that's $17 billion that you don't have for, you know, child care or pharmacare or, you know, dental care or, you know, whatever care you want to have. Now, the government did announce it's going to spend $19 billion on fighter jets, so maybe that will placate NATO for a while. But I am of the understanding that the $19 billion for new fighter jets is actually not new money. It's that it's already there. We just never got around to picking a fighter jet, and now we have. Gloria in Ottawa. Gloria, good morning.
Hello,
You're on
Rob.
City News. Hi there.
Yes, I love Fernando, by the way. I think I agree with most of what he said.
Right, sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So let me get on to what I have a little bit to say about long-term care homes.
Mm-hmm.
We need them to be fully accredited. We need stricter rules.
Okay.
And we need the people who go to work in them, whether it's for an hour or a day, to be totally registered.
Okay.
It's got to be done. It's long-term care is, you know, you don't just walk in and say, okay, I'll make you a cup of tea.
Yeah, but is this a problem right now? Unregistered or unqualified workers in long-term care homes?
I don't know how many of them are, quote, unqualified.
Okay.
But I know it's not as simple as me giving my father a cup of tea. It just isn't. Or changing him or helping me. Look,
yes,
I took care of my husband for many, many years. Trust me. I've done my own long-term care.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And when it's a stranger doing it, there has to be a certain amount of familiarity to make the patient or the client feel comfortable. That's all I'm going to say about it. But we need more, I hate to say more government rules, because that usually bungs things up. But whoever's doing jobs need to get the lead out and get it done.
Right. All right.
All right?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Long-term care. Do you fix up long-term care? I'm with you. Old Ottawa South. Stanley. Good morning, Stanley.
Yes, Mr. Snow.
Yes, Stanley.
Talking about housing and lowering the prices of houses.
Yeah.
What about the people that have already bought houses at extreme prices? Aren't they afraid that if the government lowers the price of houses, their values will go down as well?
Maybe they are. Yeah.
I mean,
yep. You know, fear of being on the other side of equity, right?
House.
Yeah.
You were talking about this little house that went for
$675,000. Two bedroom, 675 square foot house. Yeah.
Well, you know, I would be very afraid that if I could next year I could buy a house for $300,000. Where's my value going to go down? You know.
Well, again, this house just last year, January of 2021, they bought it for $336,000. What's changed in a year that's made it worth $675,000? It's kind of insane, right?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
I mean, during the financial crisis, we all became familiar with this term from the United States, underwater. There were a lot of people that had mortgages worth more than their houses, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
As far as the defense budget, yes, they should increase it to 2%.
Oh, really? Even if it means $40 billion a year, that's an extra $16-17 billion a year, Stanley.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
agree,
Yeah. Okay. All right, Stanley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Good to hear from you. Yep. I mean, whatever the case, more money for the military. It's a big request, but according to reports, it's something that Anita Anand has been pushing for, and she's the Minister of Defense now. So 10:44. Be right back. Phone lines available there. 750-1310. It's budget week. We'll find out how the government plans to spend your money. If you were calling the shots, how would the government be spending your money? 750-1310, Rob Snow Show on City News.
In about 2017, I invited 9 other artists who I've been watching here in Almonte and area, who I really respect, and asked if they'd like to put a show on with me. And 2018 was our first show. It was absolutely wonderful. We did it again in 2019. And as you just mentioned, 2020, we had to cancel because of the pandemic. It was so successful. We weren't even sure initially if this was going to work, but we had 1,600 people show up in 2019 over 2 days. So I think there might be more this time around, which will be awesome. We'll all be wearing masks. Okay. But yeah, we're very much looking forward to it.
I mentioned to you off camera that Almonte really is one of my favorite towns to do a day trip. It's a wonderful way to just get out of the city. But there's something special about Almonte when it comes to the arts. It seems to be just a vibrant artistic community. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think makes Almonte so attractive to artists?
Honest, we don't know. Everybody who's here who is an artist, and there's a lot of us, we know that Almonte is all about the arts, all about culture. We have a newspaper called The Hum. It's all about entertainment and anything to do with arts and culture. We have Puppets Up coming up. We have so many festivals and theater plays. The Textile Museum, where we're going to be having our show, has different exhibits throughout the year, and it's all got to do with creativity. It's just a mecca for anything to do with the arts. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to live.
We're seeing, of course, some of the pieces, some of the art, the styles that we're going to see at this year's 10 Collective show. Tell me a little bit more about what people can expect. What sort of mediums will we see?
A wide range, and it's definitely the cliche saying, something for everybody. Multimedia, there's abstract, there's expressionism, representational art, high realism. If you looked at the names, people will see the names of the artists, some of them are very recognizable, and when you go to the website, you'd see for yourself as well. Very diverse styles, very different mediums. Yes. Definitely something for everybody to just come in and enjoy, and there will be paintings that are available for sale, but you don't have to come and feel you have to buy. Right. It is definitely to show our work.
Eileen, how important are shows like this to artists like yourself and the other 9 artists that are participating?
It's quite important to get out. Regardless of the pandemic, we are a very solitary group of people. And our art is always created in our studio with the lights over here, and nobody comes in, and we're very solitary.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Yeah, have your say on the budget. That's what we're talking about today. Getting ready for budget week. Interviews all week, coverage all week of budget week, and then, of course, live coverage 4 o'clock right here on City News, 1047. Gas, groceries, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, trying as best you can to keep a roof over your head. I would like to think the federal budget would reflect what's top of mind for Canadians right now. And it's hard to see any of that in some of the news reports. Net zero, fighting climate change, whatever you think of it. I get it. It's a major priority for the government, and environmental organizations want to see something in the budget from this government to show that they're taking the climate emergency seriously. Headline this morning, CTV News, Budget 2022 could see new climate programs. Guilbeault says. That would be Stephen Guilbeault, Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. So you have all of these competing interests, and the Minister of Finance is supposed to be the Minister of No, but is she going to be saying no to anyone? The debt is more than $1 trillion. The deficit is an unknown number right now. It's many, 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 many tens of billions of dollars. And the cost of debt and of servicing debt, the cost of borrowing, as everyone knows, it's going up because of higher interest rates. It's gone up already. And that hits government just like it hits everyone else. The government's a big borrower, the biggest of them all. So, I mean, if you're Chrysler Freeland, it's a gargantuan task for you writing the federal budget. But just how many goodies can you stuff in there? It will be spun as, we're making life easier for Canadians because we have your back. Well, if they want to make your life easier and have your back, what should they be doing for you? 750-1310 on the Rob Snow Show Talkback Hour. Ottawa South. Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Didn't expect it. There's one thing that's not on the budget and probably never will be on the budget.
Okay.
Because the politicians, I don't think they care about anything long term, and it's a physical education of the children.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Because if we're talking about healthcare, I mean, you don't have to have more than a half a brain to realize that if you don't invest in the physical education of the children, then you will not have a healthy adults. And then I watch my two children going through the Ontario public school system, and they're just finishing right now.
Yes.
And it's completely disgusting and chaotic what's happening in schools regarding this.
Okay.
There's no gym teachers. There's no money for anything. There's no money for equipment. It's completely disorganized. The children had in high school 6 months of one class a week of physical education, and that was it.
That was it. Wow.
So you're talking about spending money on military, on defense,
yes.
on jet fighters? I mean, this is just...
I mean, when it comes to, I guess, phys ed in the schools, I mean, that's more Doug Ford's responsibility than Justin Trudeau's responsibility, but, whatever the case might be, you don't care, you just want the government to do something.
Money, I think...
Yeah, fair enough.
They should address this.
Yes, fair enough, sir. Fair enough.
Well, that's about it.
Yep, okay, yeah.
All right.
Yep. I mean, I look at David and I think, we could have, we probably would have been better off if we had some more physical education.
Yeah, probably.
Right? We wouldn't be so round and soft and pudgy.
Kind of missed the boat on that one.
I'm ready to be disappointed in the budget. I have such low expectations of this government. It's just when I think about what's top of mind for Canadians right now, it has to be the rising cost of living. Right? Gas, groceries, paying the rent, paying the mortgage, trying as best you can just to keep up. Relief. I need the budget equivalent to Rolaids. It's reflected in the polling. For most Canadians, their number one concern right now, the basics. Being able to afford the basics. On the cost of fuel, though, does this government seem really concerned about that? What you're paying for a tank of gas? To me, it's like not in the least. They're not concerned in the least. For them, the fight against climate change is existential. The clock is ticking on life as we know it on this planet, and that is a bigger priority than your gripes about a tank of gas or your home heating bills. And that's why it makes no apologies for raising the carbon tax just last week. On the housing side, you see it play out in real time, how all three levels of government are having a devil of a time trying to bring housing prices under control. In the end, I'm starting to think the Bank of Canada is going to end up doing the heavy lifting for the government simply by raising interest rates. That'll probably have way more impact on the price of houses than anything the government does. And in fact, when I've interviewed economists, and I've interviewed a lot of them, What they've told me is that government should not be making it easier for people to buy homes through incentive programs. That is only going to worsen the supply-demand imbalance, that you'll just have more and more people chasing fewer and fewer homes. That you're going to do anything, concentrate on the supply side. Make it easier to build new homes. Don't make it easier for people to buy into a market that's already starved of supply. But then if you're the younger Canadian adult, I say you're losing faith. David says, no, we've lost faith in being ever owning a house. So that's cold comfort for you. Whatever happened to the idea of tax relief? Is that just like it's taboo? It just doesn't, like nobody ever talks about that? It's certainly not in this government's DNA, tax relief. There are just too many special interest groups, too many other levels of government. The NDP, they all have their hands out, right? And a government that aims to please. So, you think taxes are going down? They just went up on Friday. Up and away. Seems to be the direction they're going to go in for the foreseeable future. Greg in Barrhaven, you're on City News. Good morning.
Yeah, I've lost faith in the government and pretty much any politician up there, because they're only in it for their own gain. And they should just stop giving themselves a raise and look at what... Okay. You give yourself, you give these people that are on minimum wage, you give them a buck more. I mean, you can't get by on that. You want to have something to sink your teeth into. Right. But meanwhile, the government gives himself a fat raise. My God, I mean, what's wrong with
you? You want them to lead by example, then?
Absolutely.
Lead by example.
And I'm just so fed up. I mean, when they say, well, you don't have a right to bitch because you didn't vote. Well, I do vote.
Right.
And I have a right to bitch. Pardon the expression.
Okay.
But
complain. I prefer the word complain.
Well, thank you kindly. But, Rob, it's just, Rob and Peter pay Paul, and they do this every election. They want to get elected, and they're smiling at you. And just cut the bull. Just cut the bull.
Gotcha.
Do the next right thing, and realize that there's a lot of suffering people in this city. That let alone outside, and it's. Give them something to think their teeth into if they're going to apply for a job. It's just, it just makes sense. Okay. And gas prices, they're going right through the roof again. I mean, cut it out. Ford's talking about bringing the gas price down. Oh, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, in July. Like, what good does that do me now?
Yeah, please. They talk about tourism is suffering. Well, you know what? Lower the gas prices and keep them down, especially when it comes to summertime, because people like to travel. They like to RV. We plan to go down east this next couple of months. Yeah. And I'm not going to have the gas price and I drive an SUV. No, you don't have to have an SUV. You can drive a little Fiat if you want to, but or a K car or whatever they call them, smart cars. I mean, just. Oh, God, just cut it out.
Cut it out. I gotcha. I got to cut you out, okay?
Okay, man.
Got to run. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, thank you. I mean, some governments are getting it, at least, modestly. Ford says, I'll cut the gas price in July. Yeah, the election's in June, Doug. The Quebec government has more runway, right, with its $500 checks. They don't go to the polls until the fall, and this is through the income tax system, so people are going to get their money when they do their taxes. Out in BC, $110 because of the rising cost of living. In British Columbia, don't spend that all in one place. But in New York State, very liberal state, they're thinking about offering one-time relief payments. California is a very liberal state. The governor there is up for re-election, $400. None of that is happening. And I don't expect anything like that in the federal budget. But I'm open to being surprised. Geoffrey Johnston on the situation in Ukraine. He's an international affairs columnist with the Kingston Whig-Standard, and he'll join me right after the news here on City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Monday, April 4th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. City Council in Ottawa wants to transform the Byward Market Parkade on Clarence into what it calls a showcase. Mathieu Fleury, councillor for Rideau-Vanier, tells us council is currently looking for interest and wants to see a destination building on that site.
A destination building is really a showcase. We're looking for something that really draws local, that draws tourists, that draws everyone throughout the year, not just at a particular season, that there's some activity daytime, but also on during the evenings, and that it can also reflect the various themes and festivals that are going on to the city.
Now, Councillor Fleury tells the Rob Snow Show there's an opportunity for something commercial or for indoor public gatherings, which would be valuable around the Byward Market. City News Time, 11:01, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Varying amounts of sun and cloud, the high near 10 degrees, the average high is about 8. Tonight, mainly cloudy, -1. Tomorrow, sun and cloud, and up to 11. For today, the high, 10.
And right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, it's 5 degrees. The search is on for a missing 74-year-old Ottawa man. The police are hoping you can help find Thomas Meyerhoff. His vehicle was found around River Road and Vimy Bridge area. Thomas is described as white, 5'8", with a slim build. He has short salt and pepper hair and is clean-shaven. Anyone who thinks they spot him is asked to contact Ottawa Police. We do have his picture and full description up at ottawa.citynews.ca. A GoFundMe page has now exceeded its goal to help pay for a victim's funeral. 24-year-old Marie Gabriel was found dead in a Hetherington Road home last Monday. A 40-year-old man has been charged with second-degree murder in her death. The $10,000 goal was just topped this morning, and money raised will pay for that funeral, but if there is any leftover cash, it will go to her children. They are just 1 and 2 years old. Again, you can find a link to the GoFundMe at ottawa.citynews.ca. Also, a couple of family members of Marie will join Sam LaPrade this afternoon on her show, getting underway at 1:30. The federal government has announced a new plan to get affordable high-speed internet to those who may struggle to afford it.
In a press release, the Trudeau government has announced a new initiative in which the feds have partnered with 14 internet service providers, including Rogers, the parent company of the station, to offer quality high-speed internet for just $20 a month for low-income families and seniors. The providers are taking part voluntarily in this initiative, which will help provide quality internet to hundreds of thousands of people across the country. This is part of Canada's connectivity strategy, and in addition to a cheaper price, the data allotment is doubling from 100 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes of usage per month. Eligible households will receive a letter from the Government of Canada, which will contain an access code that is needed to sign up for this program. The news comes shortly before this week's federal budget. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 11:03. Street sweepers are out today. They're beginning to get rid of that winter buildup on the roads. They will be swept. The roads will be remove debris that has collected over the winter months. The city would like to remind people it's not allowed to rake any leaves or debris from your property onto the road for the street sweeper to collect. You could be fined if you do that. Street sweeping does not happen in the evening. Water use could freeze overnight, creating a bit of a hazard. Now, pay heed to the temporary no parking signs. They'll go up when your street is about to be cleaned. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Geoffrey Johnston writes about international affairs for the Kingston Whig-Standard. He's one of our regular contributors here on the Rob Snow Show on City News, and he joins me again this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
These allegations of Russia perpetrating a massacre against Ukrainian civilians, what do you think could happen as a result of these very disturbing reports?
Yes, I was afraid this was going to happen. Russia, this is the way the Russians wage war. We saw them do this in Chechnya, perpetrated massive war crimes in 1999, slaughter of civilians. We saw again in Syria when the Russians propped up the Assad regime. They deliberately targeted and bombed civilians and killed countless people. And now we're seeing in the newly liberated areas around the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, the town of Bucha, which is basically a suburb, when the Russians pulled out and the Ukrainian forces moved in, the horror of the occupation was revealed. We've all seen the terrible video of bodies in the street, civilians shot to death in the back of the head, their hands tied behind their backs. There are reports that people were slaughtered in their basements, reports of torture, children killed, sexual violence against women and girls, their naked bodies burned to hide the evidence. These are clear war crimes. It looks like it looks like genocide to me. This looks very much like what we saw in the Balkan Wars. As the Ukrainian foreign minister said, Russia is worse than ISIS, because this was the kind of thing that ISIS did in their terror campaign, but this is on a much larger scale. I think that Putin and his forces have, solidified Western solidarity to stop this regime, and hopefully at some point everybody who was involved in these terrible crimes, from Putin and his generals to the soldiers who carried out this campaign, will one day stand trial either at the International Criminal Court or some sort of special war crimes tribunal, because it's horrific.
Do you think that would actually happen, Geoffrey?
Well, I've written a couple of articles about this, and I interviewed an international law professor. And she's in the University of the West of England. And I also interviewed a conflict resolution specialist, actually at the University of Ottawa, Professor Packer. And they both think that it is probably unlikely that Putin ever actually stand in the dock, because he's got the world's second largest army and a nuclear weapons arsenal. Right. What can happen, though, Rob, is that there is an investigation ongoing by the ICC, and also Spain and Germany have also opened up their own investigations. So it will be very difficult for Putin or his generals or anybody who is involved in any of these crimes in the future to travel really outside of Russia, except maybe, to a few Russian allies. So they will become international pariahs. They will not be able to enjoy the spoils of the war and all the money they've looted from the Russian treasury. They won't be able to go to the Riviera. They won't be able to go to the UK or any other hot spots in Europe. So I don't know that I don't know that it will ever happen, right. But definitely these investigations should go forward and be well documented by the international community.
Yeah, when they do happen, they tend to happen many decades later. With the Balkan Wars, it took decades to bring people to justice.
It took decades, but it's nevertheless important to document this. But so when after ISIS committed their atrocities and their genocide, because they committed genocide against Christians, Shia Muslims, and other groups, I interviewed a couple of times a researcher, and it's important for the victims and the international community to make a record of everything that happened and document it, because this is really horrific stuff. We say it again and again, never again, because after the Second World War, the world came together after the Holocaust, and the extent of the Holocaust was revealed. We said never again. We came up with the Genocide Convention, which is a UN convention. In 2005, we came up with the Responsibility to Protect Doctrine at the United Nations. It was Canadian-inspired, and it says that the international community has an obligation to prevent mass civilian death by any means necessary, humanitarian assistance, diplomacy, and at the very last resort, military intervention. But the problem is, Rob, we keep letting it happen again and again and again. And now it's happening again. And this is why it's not just enough to talk about putting people on trial. The West needs to really step up at this point, because the Russians are starting to pull back. They're trying to consolidate control on the east and the southern part of Ukraine, and they basically want to cut Ukraine off from their ports, and they basically want to position themselves for another invasion in a few years. And so we can't let that happen. Ukraine right now is fighting with one arm tied behind its back. They're fighting like lions, but they don't have what they need. They have anti-tank missiles, they have Stinger missiles, but they need surface-to-air missiles that can shoot down Russian jets from very high altitudes. The Ukrainians keep telling us that they actually need fighter jets. They need this because if they want to take the fight to them, if they want to dislodge them from their emplacements and their artillery, they need jets to actually attack these positions. And one of the Ukrainian MPs, Una Suvsin, said yesterday, we're all talking about Bucha, and we should be talking about what's happening in Bucha, but what's happening in those other places where the Russians are occupying right now? And she said in a month's time, we could be talking about genocide that's being committed in those places. And she made the appeal, we need these weapons, and we need them now. Because there are reports, CNN's reporting that Russia wants to declare victory in the eastern part of Ukraine by May 9th, their May Day. They want to have a big May Day parade. We've got to make sure that the Russians can't have their celebration. We've got to make sure that the Ukrainians can push them out.
Okay. But so far, the favored response seems to be sanctions, and we'll ratchet up the sanctions even more. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there should be sanctions, and, there has to be a response to all this. But, Europe's got to make sure that they don't buy any natural gas from Russia going forward, because, that's fueling the Russian war machine. But right now, unless we stop Putin in Ukraine now, there's going to be nothing to stop him in 2 years' time from launching another invasion into Ukraine, and there's nothing to stop him, if he gets away with this, from attacking the Baltic states, which are NATO allies, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. There's nothing to stop him from going into neutral Moldova. There are already Russian troops, by the way, in Moldova. There's a restive region there that's friendly towards Russia, and the Russians have had troops there for quite a long time. A lot of people don't know that. So what Putin really wants is he wants to push NATO back to pre-1997 borders, and that would mean that all of these former Soviet republics that joined would be left unprotected. And he has said time and again that these republics aren't real countries. So his agenda is clear. He's told us what he wants to do. The question is, are we going to fight him now or fight him later? And I think it's much better to do it now. We don't actually have to fight him. We can give the weapons to the Ukrainians, the jets, these high-flying surface-to-air missiles, and let them defeat Putin now. Because if we don't, we're going to be fighting him sooner rather than later in a direct military war.
Wow. Okay. Viktor Orban and his right of center party won the Hungarian election in a landslide. What is your reaction to that election outcome?
Yeah, in addition, the Serbs had their election too, and a guy called Alexander Vucic won, and Orban and this Serbian guy are of the same mind. They're both friendly towards Russia. The difference is the Hungarians are part of the EU and NATO, and Serbia is not. Serbia wants to join the EU. Both of these guys want to have friendly relations with Russia. So this will give Putin a public relations victory. He'll be able to say, look, not everybody's against me. But the practical matter is Hungary really can't do a lot to help Putin because Hungary still wants to be part of the EU, and the same with Serbia. Serbia really wants to join the EU down the line. Hungary doesn't want to leave the EU. Also, there is a split between Hungary and Poland because, as you know, Rob, Poland has not had the greatest human rights record in recent years, but Poland is dead set against Russia and Putin because they know what it's like to be occupied by the Russians. They know what Russian brutality is, and they're afraid of Russia. And Poland are the real hawks within NATO. They actually want to give fighter jets to the Ukrainians. And in fact, the Polish Prime Minister even went to Kyiv. So Orban will give some diplomatic cover to Putin, but there's not a lot he can do. His biggest ally, Orban, can slow walk some sanctions in terms of energy because the Hungarians keep saying, well, we don't want to ban energy from Russia. And same with Serbia, although Serbia is not in the EU. Serbia is totally reliant on Russia for its energy. So these guys will, be minor players, but they're not going to be able to ultimately ease the pressure on the Russian economy, which is cratering right now. It's contracting like 15%. These are sort of Great Depression sort of numbers that we're seeing in Russia right now. So there's not a lot they can do to help him.
Okay. Thank you, Geoffrey, for this week. It's always great to have your insight and perspective and knowledge about these issues. Thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep, talk soon. From the Kingston Whig-Standard, that's Geoffrey Johnston. From the Ottawa Business Journal, coming up next is David Sali on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
That same old train that brought me here's gonna carry me away again.
world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
David Sally's with us every week from the Ottawa Business Journal to talk about some really interesting local business news stories. Morning, David. Yeah, is David there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there he is. Okay. Good morning, David. Yeah. So it's interesting. We've talked about the Byward Market already this morning with Councillor Fleury because of a story that's in the Ottawa Citizen this morning about the parkade and what the city would like to see there. Something bold, a public space in time for the Byward Market's 200th anniversary, which is 5 years from now. We'll see how the city can do at getting something built in the Byward Market in 5 years. Meantime, exactly. Just down the street, I mean literally just down the street on York Street, 126 York Street, a new hotel, a new Marriott-branded hotel. Tell us about this development here.
Well, exactly, Rob. So maybe by the time 2027 rolls around and we're celebrating the Byward Market's 200th anniversary, hopefully we'll have a nice new space in that parking lot, and those people will have another hotel to stay at if they're coming into town to visit. It is, as you say, 126 York Street, which it's an old warehouse built in 1913. It's a heritage building protected under the Ontario Heritage Act, officially called the Major Building. You might know it as it was actually at one time it was Shopify's headquarters back when they were starting out. I'm sure anybody who's walked down there, they would recognize it.
Oh, yes.
Five-story brick building.
Iconic building in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, last year, Montreal firm, or actually 2 years ago, Montreal firm called Rimap Hospitality bought it. They're into developing hotels. Generally, they work a lot with Marriott. They've developed hotels in Montreal and another one in Ottawa under various Marriott brands. Well, they're bringing another Marriott brand to that building. It is it's called the Moxie banner. It is and Moxie is a fairly new Marriott brand. It's got about 100 locations around the world, North America, Europe, and Asia. They bill it as a playful hotel experience for the young at heart, Rob. So that sounds like that would fit you to a T if you ever want to check it out.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be 222 rooms. That's right now. And what they're going to do is integrate the Heritage Building into a new 22-story high-rise that they're building that will be connected to it. Officially, that's at 151 George Street. And that building is going to... So it's going to be a sort of a blend there. You're going to have the warehouse integrated into this new building. The hotel will be in both. It will occupy the first 5 floors of that combined structure. And then above that will be 280 rental apartment units. So it's going to be an interesting concept. And just a little bit more on Moxie. So it is... one of its kind of interesting innovations, they call it a non-traditional hotel experience. You can check in at the hotel bar. So you don't even have to go up to your room to have a drink, Rob. You can just come right in, check in, and sit out at the bar. I'm sure somebody will take your luggage.
I'll have a draft and a room, please. Thank you.
Exactly. So it's right now. Yeah, it's interesting concept. It seems to be picking up around the world, and it's and as I said, Rimap is so they've got a couple of projects on the go here in Ottawa. There's going to be an AC Hotels by Marriott hotel that's it's under construction right now. Former beer store, 201 Rideau Street. You may know that location. That's going to be a 25-story, 208-room hotel. And Rimap recently, in fact, just last month, said they're buying into the project at 395 Slater Street, where they're going to be building a 35-story tower there. Main and Main has most of the project, but they've bought into they're going to build one of the towers, 35 stories, and they're going to put another hotel on that site. So RIMAP is really, they're really bullish on Ottawa. The owner's a big fan of Ottawa, really thinks that that it's an underdeveloped hotel market here. So there you go.
Well, what I find really interesting is when I had Councillor Fleury on, and I'm not aware of all the the building height restrictions that are in town. What I asked him about that development for the parkade, and I said, "Are you going to have a tower there? Condo tower, or like a hotel or?" But no, there's a very strict height restriction. But it must only apply to like the center of the Byward Market, because all around it, 25 stories, 20 stories, da-da-da-da-da.
You're right, Rob, and it's and John Willing from the Citizen had in his good. He rewrote a great piece today on that project, and he mentioned there's kind of a real patchwork quilt of all kinds of zoning, all kinds of. You've got the federal government is very involved in their regulations in terms of the site path to Parliament Hill to the Peace Tower, all that sort of thing, right? So the sight lines are key, and it just depends where you are. And we see this all the time in development applications, how developers are trying to figure out ways around some of these Byzantine regulations that we have in Ottawa, right?
Okay. What do we have? We have about 2 minutes left here. So, we have carbon capture companies in Ottawa. Yeah, we do.
Oh yeah. We do.
Really? Okay.
We do.
All right.
They're a big thing there, and there's more of them propping up all the time, and there will be more as this industry develops. This is just in its infancy.
Yeah.
Carbon capture is a big thing, and one of them is called Planetary Technologies. It's based here in Ottawa. Its founders are here, but most of its work is now being done in Nova Scotia and some in Quebec, because they just got $8 million in seed funding to develop this technology, where they're going to basically help basically de-acidify the ocean. So using carbon capture technology, they call it an antacid for the ocean, Rob. And and I won't get into how the technology works, because quite frankly, I don't even understand its intricacies. I think you've got to be a pretty much to
a marine biologist. You got to be a marine biologist. Do we have a marine biologist, Stephen?
Where's George Costanza when you need him, Rob? He would be able to crack this case. But the bottom line is that it is going to scrub carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, make the ocean less acidic, which will help boost the growth of coral, shellfish like oysters, lobsters, all of that, make the ecosystem healthier, meanwhile taking greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, creating green hydrogen fuel in the process, as well as taking mining waste. Mining waste is also involved in this, and you're going to end up with nickel and cobalt as byproducts, which are used in batteries. Well, electric power is also another industry that is poised to just boom, and so they're saying that they're going to be able to use that nickel and cobalt in batteries. So all around, just what they see the potential here is could be $100 million to multi-million dollar, maybe $1 billion enterprise.
Wow.
Who knows how it's all going to shake down?
Yep.
But that's their goal.
The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli. Yeah. Yeah, sorry to pull out a little Seinfeld quote for you there, but I couldn't resist.
One.
Okay. Yeah, all in one. Talk to you later, David. Thank you. Yeah, from the Ottawa Business Journal. That's David Sali. Back after the news. Blue Jays. Opening week for the Blue Jays is Friday. Friday opening day. We'll have the game for you here on City News Ottawa. This is the Rob Snow Show.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I love to make abundance boards. And why do I call them abundance boards? Because they're an abundance of all the things that you love together. There's no rhyme or reason, there's no rules. It's literally about taking a whole bunch of different ingredients and making them into something that you love, that you can snack on. Maybe curl up on the couch and have a snack night. Charcuterie is all about a meat plate. And antipasti is all about a little bit of meat, a little bit of fruit, and a little bit of snack that you might have at the beginning of a meal, like an appetizer. I like to take all of these concepts and kind of mesh them together. It's kind of like a work of art because you're creating something delicious, but you're also creating something that looks super fancy, like from a gourmet style restaurant, but just using simple things you have.
Ottawa is a very political city, and it's not just political with the people in Parliament. You got street politics, you got business politics, you got basketball politics, and if you don't know how to navigate the systems, you get left behind. I did. They thought I went crazy. They thought I was dead. I was. But it's never too late to heal, to rebuild, to reinvent yourself. Prezi.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Monday, April 4th. Good morning, I'm Danielle Bain. Right now in Ottawa, it's 8 degrees, mostly sunny skies, and over in Smiths Falls, it's 7. Here's what's making news this hour. City Council wants to transform the Byward Market Parkade into what they call a showcase. Mathieu Fleury, the Rideau-Vanier City Councillor, joined the Rob Snow Show earlier and says Council is currently looking for interest and wants to see a destination building at the site. He says there's an opportunity for something commercial or for indoor public gatherings, which will be valuable around the Byward Market. The federal and Ontario governments are announcing investments of up to $259 million each in General Motors' Oshawa plant and its CAMI facility in Ingersoll. The government funding is part of a $2 billion GM investment that will help boost production in Oshawa and support the company's first electric vehicle production line. The Ontario government says it will be the first full-scale electric vehicle production facility in Canada. FanDuel Group, North America's premier online gaming company, is announcing a first-of-its-kind multi-year agreement with TSN to introduce its leading sportsbook to Canadian sports fans beginning in Ontario. The partnership comes as the province has fully legalized single-game sports betting and casino wagering. The deal provides opportunity for scaled expansion into other Canadian provinces and territories pending regulation. And in sports, the Carleton Ravens defended their U Sports men's basketball crown with a victory in the championship game Sunday. Third-year guard Aiden Warnholtz had 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists to lead the Ravens past the Saskatchewan Huskies 85-72. City News Time 11:32. I'm Danielle Bain. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Hey, talking baseball this morning. Because the Blue Jays open their regular season on Friday at home at Rogers Centre. We'll have the game on City News. It'll probably sound like that. I like it. Jays and Rangers. High hopes for the Blue Jays this season, who actually get to play a regular season game at home and not in Florida and not in Buffalo. And with that, we welcome Arash Madani, covers the Blue Jays for Sportsnet. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Hey, it's great to hear from you. High expectations, wouldn't you say, for the Toronto Blue Jays for this season, Arash?
Yeah, Rob, I was thinking about this yesterday. I can't remember the last time there were such high expectations for a team that is not coming off a playoff berth. You know, in 2016, there were high hopes and high expectations because the Blue Jays had just won the division and got to the ALCS. But when you think about last year, there was no October for Toronto. Now, granted, they came one game short, but they bring back a core group they've added significant pieces to the mix, and anybody you talk to, I'm down here in Florida at spring training, anybody you talk to in the American League conversation, it often begins and ends, but always includes the Blue Jays in the postseason conversation.
Wow. So what have been those significant additions during the offseason, Arash?
Well, the big one is Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman was a top draft pick with Baltimore 8 or 9 years ago, and went from Baltimore to Atlanta, and then the last couple of years he was with San Francisco, and the Giants not only won the division last year in the NL West ahead of the Dodgers, but they won over 100 games, and Gausman is a front of the rotation type pitcher. They've signed him long term. They gave him over $100 million. On a lot of other teams, Rob, Kevin Gausman's the ace.
Okay.
Not in Toronto. Jose Barrios, who they traded for at the deadline last year, he is not only going to be the opening day starter, but he signed a long-term extension, a 7-year extension, so he's here for a significant period of time. And then you kind of peel back some layers, and, you know, it was last year this time, George Springer was having his first spring with the Jays. That's a $150 million contract. And, you know, he's not a new addition, but the finalist for AL MVP, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's figuring large in all of this. So, you know, it's an upgraded pitching staff. They added a fifth arm in their rotation. They have a solid 1 through 5 rotation, probably the best in baseball, as long as they're healthy. The key to this whole season, Rob, the key to this whole equation is the Blue Jays remaining healthy.
Well, that's what plagued George Springer last season, right? He was hurt,
and
right?
He couldn't stay healthy, but when he was on the field, he was electric, he was dynamic, he was game-changing, he was all of those things. Another question with the Jays, Rob, is they lost Marcus Semien, who was also a finalist for AL MVP, went over to Texas in free agency. I wonder what the second base situation is going to be like. They have Kevin Biggio and Santiago Espinal there. But having Springer really, you know, changes the whole dynamic of a healthy Springer changes the whole dynamic of that lineup.
Okay. So what do you think is going to be, I mean, I guess hard to say before getting a few games in anyway, but like say the identity of the team. I mean, is it a powerhouse offensively? Is it a team that's going to shut you down defensively? Is it speed? What is it? What's the identity of this team?
Well, it definitely looks to be an offensive juggernaut. It really does. Okay. That's not hyperbole. That's not somebody who's too close to the team. You know, it's interesting. We talk about Vlad, and you talk about Bo Bichette, and you talk about the offensive power, George Springer. Probably their best hitter and probably their best player sustainably over the last 2 seasons is Teoscar Hernandez, back-to-back Silver Slugger Award winner, and he kind of just stays in the shadows, Rob. So that's a part of their identity. But I also think that defense is really going to be a calling card this year. They went at the beginning of spring and traded for Matt Chapman, the third baseman for Oakland. They have him under team control for the last couple of years. Just being down here at spring, they were playing, I think it was Philadelphia the other day. And honestly, he feels like a human vacuum over there at third base. Whatever comes his way, Rob, he just sucks it up and, you know, it goes right out of the glove and fires it over to first. He's a significant upgrade defensively at the corner infield spot. So it's a team that's talked about run prevention for the last couple of years, and they certainly addressed that with the addition of Chapman.
Okay. So here we are. You're in Florida now, spring training 2022, just a few days before the season opener at Rogers Centre in Toronto. Not Buffalo, Toronto, not Dunedin, in Toronto. Yeah. What does that mean for the team? Just, you know, is that a big deal? What's your sense of it, Arash? Huge, okay.
Absolutely huge. And it's not just, you know, they returned to Toronto last year, July 30th, but I think 15,000 was the maximum crowds that could come.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys have been nomads, and for a lot of them, they have no idea what Toronto can be. And the other day in the clubhouse, they were showing, they have Sportsnet on the TVs in the locker room, and they're showing the images of the Canada soccer win over Jamaica at the World Cup. Yep. And Ryan Baraki, who's been around forever, 11 years with the Jays, he was telling some of the guys, he said, that's going to be what it's like for us when we get there. It just, instead of red and white, it's going to be blue and white. There are a chunk of these players, Rob, who haven't really experienced what that is. And when you look at last year when the team took off in August and September, yeah, they played a lot better and they got a lot more production, but they were also home. They were in a big league ballpark. They had fans. They had some stability. All of that plays a part. Home field advantage is a significant part for the construction of this Blue Jays lineup from a baseball standpoint, and from a psyche standpoint, I think it's going to make a huge impact too.
You know, I'm feeling old, Arash, because, all the talk here in Ottawa now with the passing of Eugene Melnyk is, the future of the team and where's the team going to play, and the hockey arena is so old. Front page of the Calgary Herald this morning is the city council in Calgary talking about the Saddle Dome, and the Saddle Dome needs to be replaced, and all of these arenas that opened during my formative years, and probably yours too, Arash. And one of those is, of course, Rogers Centre, originally known as Sky Dome, which is I would suspect, one of the older ballparks now. Well, what are the plans? What are the plans for that place? Like near term, longer term?
Well, what you'd immediately notice if you come to a game this year is that it's going to be a brand new scoreboard, video board that they've put in. They've done a number of, I'd say, window dressing renovations, Rob, over the last few years. It's improved a little bit. There are now plans to do a large scale over a few years renovation to it. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of like $200 million, something like that. But and Mark Shapiro, the president of the team, believes that'll get them 10 or 15 years down the road once those are complete. The reality is, in today's pro sports, modern sports environment, you're going to need a new facility. You're going to need a new stadium. There's a couple of issues with that. One, the price tag is going to be close to $2 billion, billion with a B.
Wow.
The other is there's no real land in Toronto to have the footprint for it. So I'm not sure what the long-term plan is, but over the next decade and a half, they believe a $200 million facelift is going to make an impact. We'll see.
All right. Hey, Arash Madani, great to get caught up with you, and get ready for the Blue Jays this week. Thank you so much.
You got it, Rob. Just one last thing, because I've done a lot of university basketball over the years.
Yeah.
Carleton's national championship, another one. What is this, number 16?
16, third in a row, 16. Yeah.
How about what Taffy Charles has done? In 2018, was the head coach of the women's Ravens team that won the national championship, brought the bronze baby back to Ottawa.
Yep.
Now takes the men's team to win a national championship yesterday. Yep. Pretty remarkable stuff for Taffy.
Yeah. Good mention there, Arash. Thank you.
Okay, Rob.
Yep. Arash Madani with Sportsnet, where he's in Florida right now. Tough gig being in Florida, covering the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, season opener is the home opener. It's Friday. We'll have it for you on City News. Jays and Rangers, 11:43. Money Monday. Coming up next, lots of chats about maybe yield curves, maybe Elon Musk. Hey, if Elon Musk, last week, David, the news was Elon Musk wants to build his own social network. Well, I guess if you don't want to build it, just buy it. He bought almost 10% of Twitter. He is now Elon Musk, richest person in the world now. Elon Musk is Twitter's largest shareholder. May touch on that, and inverted yield curves. Big buzz about that. When we come back, Rob Snow Show, City News.
Riding requires attention and focus. No distractions, no moment of unawareness, because one brief moment can cost a lifetime of other moments. Everyone deserves to arrive home.
The Maritime provinces are home to some of the oldest settlements in Canadian history. But did you know that one of the first was actually started by black settlers? Take a minute to learn about the rise and untimely fall of Africville. Black people have lived in Nova Scotia since before the founding of Halifax in 1749, but it wasn't until after the American Revolution in the late 1700s and early 1800s that large groups of black settlers began to arrive in the province, many of whom were former slaves promised freedom and land in Nova Scotia. What they encountered when they arrived, however, was racist treatment by their white neighbors and government officials. This pushed many black people to build homes on the outskirts of town instead. But despite the area receiving little support from government officials and lacking necessities like functioning sewage systems, access to clean water, and proper garbage disposals, the tight-knit community persevered, and so Africville was born. For more than 150 years, the small community grew, expanding from just a few homes to a population of over 400 people. Everything changed, however, in 1964 when plans for a new bridge and the idea of urban renewal prompted the municipality to set its sights on Africville's land. Instead of investing in the community, officials approved a relocation program that promised free job training and employment assistance to help residents through relocation. But the reality wasn't so kind. Residents had their belongings moved in city dump trucks, and homes were demolished immediately after their owners left. Of the 400-plus people living in Africville, only 14 residents held clear legal titles to their land, so the rest were only given $500 with the promise of more social aid in the future. Not much else was actually done to support Africville and its residents until 2001, when a United Nations report called for reparations to be paid to the community. In 2010, Halifax Mayor Peter Kelly apologized for the atrocities against Africville as part of a $4.5 million compensation deal. In 2021, Councillor Lindell Smith put forward a 7-part motion to plan for the future of Africville alongside local organizations and the descendants of former residents. Today, there's a public park and museum where Africville once stood to teach visitors about the history of the land and its community. If you've never heard of Africville, you're not alone. The tragic story of this small black community in Nova Scotia is not as well known as it should be.
The pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
It's time for Money Monday. Peter Fraser is with us, and Peter's here every Monday. That's why we call it Money Monday. And he's Associate Portfolio Manager, Certified Financial Planner, Cardinal Planning and Manulife Securities Incorporated here in Ottawa. Hello.
Good morning,
How
Rob.
are you?
Good to talk to you.
Good. So all the buzz, all the buzz in your business these days, I'm sure, is about the yield curve. I just looked up the yield. 2-year Treasury in the United States is 2.44% yield, and the 10-year is 2.41, meaning that the difference between the 2-year and the 10-year is inverted. So I say that because you even have that on your watch list, things to watch for, because it's one of the could signal inflation in recession. Pardon me.
You do know there's a camp that also is promoting the 3-month versus the 10-year as a better indicator. I've got to do more work on that, but I dug into it last week. But that one is not inverted, so
right. Yeah. Well, then I look at the 2-year and the 30-year is not inverted. So you can, I guess, you can do this. And just for the listeners, Peter, because the first quarter's come and gone now. TSX is up for the year so far this year. Year to date, up about 3.5%. Not so for the big American benchmarks. The Dow and the S&P down about 4.7% each, and it's been tough in tech. So the Nasdaq is down 8.5%. Although Elon Musk buying 20 20-some million shares of Twitter may help that out. So we'll see what happens.
I found one more metric for us to keep an eye on.
Okay.
Called the misery index. I know it's not today's topic.
Misery index. Okay.
Inflation rate plus the unemployment rate. So call it
the inflation rate plus the unemployment rate.
Yeah, so call that 4 and 8 in the States at the end of February, so almost 12.
12, yep.
And it was 11 in January. We'll see what it is at the end of March, but obviously 2/3 of that misery is coming in the form of
inflation.
So
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So for today's specialized financial planning and support theme, you're talking about dual income couples and some of the specific things to think about if you are a couple and you have dual income, and that's how you're building your lifestyle. What are some things to keep in mind, Peter?
Well, as you say, most couples today are dual income. They're building their lifestyle. They're building their financial plan around and upon that very status. So think 2 retirement dates, 2 sets of pensions, 2 retirement savings and TFSAs and so on. And these are all largely based on being together and for a long time. But widowhood is a thing, a serious thing, and most often widows, we've always assumed them to be older women. But if you take a look at some work done by BMO and Census Canada, the average age of a widowed woman in Canada is just 56.
So, the average age of a widowed woman in Canada is 56?
Yeah.
Wow.
So as often as not, widows can still be in a planning stage that financial planners call accumulation.
Okay.
And it means that plans need to be adjusted and your priorities considered, and often rapidly and unexpectedly. So the number one challenge becomes, pretty much without warning, of course, managing a lost or a diminished income. And when that happens, it can be crisis in an already grievous situation. So we know that women's incomes are improving, they're catching up and increasing, but they have historically been less in their working years. And all you have to do is take a look at working part-time or leaving the workforce for extended periods for child-rearing stuff.
Yeah,
and
there's a gender pay gap, right?
Totally, totally. Yeah. And you add to this, at the end of it, is a lower savings number and a lower government and employer entitlements for women. So, emotional and financial repercussions are thrust upon younger women than we appreciate, with disproportionate impact. So I thought we could talk about 2 or 3 things that are both proactive and reactive. And the first one, of course, a good plan. There's no better reason to have an existing foundation of 100% income continuity. So, we know this as insurance, but between personal coverage, your employer coverage, it's very important to ensure that if something happens to one of the contributing incomes, that it does not imperil the plan. And insurance just basically helps to smooth the rough edges off of the most critical financial challenge. Sometimes it doesn't completely fix it, but it does go a long way to help. Second part that I've seen up front and up close and personal is that long-term plans should be put on hold at the moment to assess the new reality. We call this plan modification, but basically it's appropriate to shift our focus to the short term. And the number one how-to is learning about the new cash flows. And I've seen personally that without a good handle on cash flows, more than a few widows have accumulated debts that they weren't planning on piling on. So really, really important to take time to do that at the onset of widowhood. And the other one I like to recommend is to just take some time to make major decisions really slowly in that first year or two. One situation I saw where a mortgage was quickly paid off through kind of hurried decision-making and grief really takes the suite of options available to look at. It takes it down because now that money's gone for potentially other purposes. So sometimes haste does more harm than good, and in circumstances like these, time can often be our friend.
Okay. And devote energy and intention to an inventory of new strengths.
Yeah, this one actually is my favorite, if I could call it that. But, these are so-called other assets of a newly widowed person, positive things like your career track and a hard look at your earnings prospects. But there are other benefits that I've seen rally around a future forward plan, like family members who commit to assist with things like daycare. And really what they help us to do is to prepare and to build the strongest financial related strength that any of us have, and it's our income earning ability. So, a $50,000 income capability over many years is literally a multi-million-dollar asset. And it's to that end that, we pull everything we have together and we begin to look at how do we curate that asset for the maximum impact possible, even as a single person. And with some good planning and good quantitative and qualitative pieces, you can help people make a hard circumstance turn out better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really shocked at the first revelation from this whole conversation. At 56 years old, I found that
I was too.
Yeah,
I was too. I have
because it's just not what you picture in your head.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But mostly it is visited upon women in this country, but it goes for any relationship of two people that's being built on the contributions of two persons. And for whatever reason, one gets taken out or lost to the contribution path. And, there are very serious qualitative and quantitative impacts. And sometimes we don't get a lot of warning. It's kind of ready.
Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
Okay. Well, I think that's, as usual, that's very, very good advice for our listeners this morning.
Yeah, people can go to cardinalplanning.ca to learn more, but thanks for a good one this morning, Rob.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. We'll speak next week.
Yeah.
From Cardinal Planning and Manulife Securities Incorporated here in Ottawa, certified financial planner and associate portfolio manager. That is Peter Fraser. And that's the Rob Snow Show. Sam is in next. Sam LaPrade Show right after our noon news update. Back tomorrow at 9 o'clock with the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The Rob Snow Show.
Weekdays 9 to noon on Rogers TV and City News. 101.1 FM and 1310 AM. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley.
This program is brought to you by